Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talk and they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby.
There it is. What's up, BSers?
You were waiting to see if I did it again.
I had a backup plan ready this week.
Oh,
did not
did
have
you?
it last week.
I should have done it then.
Well, we got a full house tonight. Everybody's back in the studio. Fred, Scott, Ryan, James, Drew, the whole crew is in the house.
Oh, yeah. A lot of excitement tonight.
A lot of shit to talk about. It has been an action-packed full week for the Ravens specifically. Man, it was a fun weekend, too. I don't know what you guys did for the weekend. Man, I got down to Caves Valley, got to see some of the PGA event. That was a lot of fun.
We went to a balloon festival.
Yeah.
Went to a balloon festival. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But you know what's really good about a balloon
When
festival?
the balloons take off.
There it is.
Yeah.
Right on the nose.
If anybody's looking to print money, you can start a hot air balloon festival, and you can just collect money from thousands of people and just say it's too windy to put the balloons up. We're talking like 4 to 6 mile an hour winds. They're like, no, we can't do it. I don't know what day of the year you can have a hot air balloon take off the ground.
Think about it.
That's why we never see them.
How often do you see them? That was exactly what was going to be my point. But yeah, man, it was a fun weekend. Got down to Caves. You guys got to see some hot air balloons. I got a new wide receiver 1 in my fantasy league. Like, I'm excited. It was a good weekend.
Yeah, it was definitely a good weekend down at 5-iron golf. Like
5-iron golf.
That was fun. And Kaylee, I was going to be nice and wish you a happy anniversary, but since you're saying I make you uncomfortable with all about that BS, I don't know if I want to do that now. So I'll let Fred go ahead.
I'll say it is a little creepy, but yeah, happy anniversary to the Ryan and Kaylee, the Shambles.
You're just now saying this considering I've done it for the past 2 years?
Nah, I've always thought it was creepy. I just let you go with it. It's kind of your thing. You're creepy.
Happy anniversary, wife. Thank you for letting me come play with these fools. It's almost football season.
Not like that.
No more baseball.
Speaking of creepy.
So it's going to be pretty awesome.
We're just chatting here, not playing.
Well, like I said, we got a lot to cover. The Ravens wrap up their perfect 3-0 preseason, but things ended far from perfect in that game.
Yeah, no, it definitely wasn't pretty.
John Goog's now my favorite person. You see this? Terps about shocked the nation and win by 30.
I love it.
Beers on me, brother.
Well, yeah, we remember the Syracuse game, too.
Talking about shocking, right? The Orioles also finally break the streak against the biggest name in baseball right now.
Yeah, man.
So we're going to get into that a little bit later. It's exciting.
Yeah, the Terps, like Ryan said, set to kick off the 2021 football season this weekend. What do we expect from the squad? So Ryan and I are going to dive a little bit into the head-on matchup that they've got, the kind of rivalry between us and West Virginia.
A little true show and tell this year, or this week. Right. And in this week's rundown, we're talking amazing golf. Obviously, you know who's talking about that if he went there. We got the thumbs down celebration, which I'm sure everybody's seen and heard about.
Yeah.
And a thumbs down to the NFL rule book. We're going to get into that later. But before we do, give our sponsors a shout out.
That's right. Ever been injured at work or in an auto accident, weren't sure who to call? 855-MD-CRASH. The Maryland personal injury attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in an unfortunate situation just like I have, James probably has. Drew definitely hasn't.
We're chasing that.
Wait. Ryan hasn't rammed him yet?
I don't know. That's a personal question. Give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. It all adds up quickly and can potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. It's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, which he hasn't done yet for the Chiefs game, so go follow him. Make sure you get in for that contest for some Ravens tickets. All right, man. So like we said, Ravens, this is going to be a long Ravens segmented show pretty much. We're going to say we'll touch on some Orioles. We're going to touch on some Terps. We got a lot going on that we got to get caught up with the Ravens. Big day. Today was cut down day. They got down to the 53-man roster.
Some we knew, some little surprising,
right?
So for all of us,
right? We had the J.K. Dobbins situation in the preseason game, so we've got some changes at RB1 and some changes to that running back group as a whole. So we're going to talk about that. We're obviously going to talk more about the preseason game too, the Washington football team, and just how that game kind of went out, how good Tyler Huntley looked. A lot so that people are really high on Tyler Huntley. Some want him locked up long term already. Somebody's sitting in this room.
I am not.
That's me too.
God, I don't understand.
No, that's me too.
I would. I'm
Right,
not
I'm
banging the
with you.
table for it.
Right, I'm with you.
But before we do too much, though, I do got to give a special shout out. And a special shout out goes to Ravens flock, man. All of you out there. For those that don't or haven't been following this story, former Raven Lionel Dalton, he's been going on social media trying to get help. He's needed a kidney transplant for quite some time. And he started posting some stuff about it on social media. And Ravens flock, you did your thing. Everybody got on there, was retweeting it, putting the word out there, trying to find a donor for this guy. Well, he finally found his donor. He went through his surgery. So far, everything we've heard, surgery was successful. So, man, good on Lionel Dalton for getting that, situation.
Yeah, exciting.
discovered.
And it just goes to show you that social media can be used for other things.
Yeah,
and
it's not all bad.
No, and you get these stories every once in a while. This one, being a former Raven, it hits a little closer to home. So it's kind of that feel good story.
Right.
But let's get into what everybody really, enough about Lionel. Great story. But let's get into what really everybody came for.
Yeah.
The final 53 was announced today. They made all their cuts. They got it down. It was, I think, a total of 20 cuts.
Yep.
Started this morning with Tony Poljan, which was the guy that I thought, I would have liked to have seen him do a little bit more. It didn't work. I didn't think he was going to be there, but he's going to wind up on the practice squad. I can see it coming.
Could very well be. Obviously, along with that tight end group, you also had Eric Tomlinson, who was let go.
Yep.
So now they're down to the three tight ends that we thought would probably make this team. Obviously, you've got Mark Andrews, TE1, Nick Boyles, TE2 when he's healthy. That's the question mark right now. John Harbaugh did talk about Boyle in his press conference, said that he's progressing, but he's not quite where they hoped. He might be available week 1. We'll see.
Yeah.
They did take him off the PUP list.
So before we kind of get into that real quick, Josh Oliver, we kind of knew this was coming. We saw the writing on the wall the way the kid was playing. So good on him to make this team really exciting. But I wanted to take a second because we were talking about this a little bit ago. There's like a loophole-ish. The Ravens took him off the PUP list, meaning because he came off PUP, he cannot go on the short-term IR.
Right. And
But
the
there's a caveat.
the caveat to that is he can't go on the short-term IR right away unless there's another injury that happens in the meantime, or if he re-aggravates said injury. So
I think
there's a lot of ways to manipulate that.
There's a notorious pothole in Baltimore, and I think Boyle just I'm getting breaking news. He's getting into the pothole now.
It sits right out there on Ravens Walk, right between the Orioles, Camden Yards, and Ravens Stadium.
That pothole's called Baltimore.
Yeah, right. It's all of Baltimore. Listen, if Nick Boyle isn't ready to go, it's why I was bringing this up. I do think Eric Tomlinson's probably the most ready, fit to come in, especially as that blocking tight end out of the two that didn't make the team. But like you said, kudos goes out to Oliver for making the team, man. He, from day one, obviously he's had the cards kind of put against him because he hasn't been healthy in his career, and that's why the Jaguars gave up on him. Yeah. And if we reap the rewards of that, great. Good look on EDC for finding yet another dime for a 7th-round pick that we got for him.
Good system, good fit, and he's gonna take that perfect spot that Hayden Hurst was in, and he's gonna be. The difference is he's going to make the most of every ball thrown his way. It's just a feel that you get from this kid, which is exactly what you want out of your tight end 3.
Right, exactly. Quarterback room, obviously it worked out exactly like we talked about. They're only keeping 2 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Huntley. Obviously, Trace McSorley, they're going to try to slide into the practice squad. I personally don't. I don't know if anybody in here disagrees with me. I personally don't see anybody claiming him and putting him on the 53-man roster. Can anybody think of any teams that might pull the trigger on a Trace McSorley?
Not offhand. Houston. Most of them have back.
Houston
Houston could be a fit.
I got Cam Newton out there.
Right.
We'll get into that part later too. But no, Houston, maybe like a Miami. I know we were talking a little bit pre-show. Another place that James had mentioned on Cam was a place like Carolina. Maybe that's a fit for him.
Right.
But you got to, is somebody going to be willing to take the risk, being that he's had 2 injuries in the past 2 years? Maybe not.
I don't know what the backup quarterback situation looks like in Arizona, but he's a similar fit to the Kyler Murray.
Size-wise, and
Yeah, he is short.
And athleticism-wise, like they're similar in that sense. I like I said, I think he'll be back on the practice squad. So that wraps up the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Running back was the big question mark. I know we had been back and forth on whether Justice Hill was going to make this squad.
Jesus.
There's one fucking reason he made this squad. Let's be real.
I was going to say, when it comes down to cuts and performance, because honestly, Tyson Williams did everything that he could to secure a spot on this roster.
Regardless of what happened with Dobbins, he was making this team. It was just going to be as the RB2 or RB3.
Exactly. I mean, this guy, Tyson Williams, in training camp, in preseason, 4 carries for 42 yards, 10 carries for 41 yards, 24 carries total for 130 yards, average 5.42 yards per carry in the preseason this year. So, again, he did everything he can to secure his own spot. He won that job fair outright. So I think he would have even been RB3 if J.K. doesn't go down with the injury.
And all those numbers were with an incomplete O-line.
Right. That's exactly true.
And not with Lamar for the most part.
Right, exactly, yeah. So you added that other threat. But, with that being said, the fact of what we saw with Huntley, that kind of factors in because he does have a similar game to Lamar, which is why he's more plug and play. He's actually the better fit regardless. So with Williams, I think we saw some good things, but imagine if you give this kid a more solid O-line, he's going to be able to do a lot more with the ball.
Well, let me ask you this. Being the JK goes down, and now obviously Gus Edwards, he's going to get the lion's share of the carry at RB1. Are you confident in a Gus Edwards being RB1 going into the year, getting more carries? Because let's say for the last, 2 or 3 years, he's put up almost the identical numbers. He's over 5 yards a carry, about 700 yards a season. I'm not going to say his workload is going to double because they're still going to share the ball. And even Greg Roman talked about, these guys still getting, some share of the carries. But Gus is going to take on a lot more than what he has in the past.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be doing a lot more. He's going to have a lot more carries. He's going to be a lot more, plays that are called his way. What you lose a little bit, and I think it's where Williams makes up, is Gus is really a north and south runner.
Yeah.
Right? And so when you need that dynamic side of things, I think Williams going to be able to come in and perform.
Yeah.
And with that, I think you're going to see at the beginning of the season, I think the load is going to be heavy. If Williams carries this success that he had in the preseason into the regular season when he's given the opportunity, I think we could see later in the season we see a shift to see it more balanced, which then is perfect because it keeps Gus healthy, right? Which is exactly what you want. The big question mark is Justice Hill. If and how do they even use him at this point? If you were thinking, regardless of what happened with J.K., if J.K. makes this team and is not injured, as we all agree, Justice Hill is probably not in this conversation at all.
Yeah.
So you already are saying we barely had any confidence in you in the first place. Now our hands are tied. We're going to go with the guy that knows our system and can be versatile against special teams.
I'm still intrigued, and I don't think the Ravens are done here at the running back position. I think they were in a position where they had to have somebody, and Justice Hill will fill that role for now on the 53-man. But I think they wanted to see what the cuts were going to look like.
So you think they could pick somebody off free agency?
I think they could still pick somebody up through free agency. Obviously, we're stockpiling picks at this point, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit.
So do you have like a dark horse that you're looking at, or do you have are you looking at some of like the bigger names that are out there?
So when you talk about like the veteran free agents that are out there right now, you come up with like who? Adrian Peterson, Todd Gurley, Frank Gore, Le'Veon Bell. For me, when you're going after these guys, you're chasing names. Most of these guys have been done for a while. Could they add something to the team in veteran presence and be a good change of pace as a third back? Yes. But it's where I think the Ravens are going to lack with the loss of J.K. Dobbins. What was the big thing that he said he was working on in the offseason?
Pass catch.
He's working on
Pass
his hands,
catching.
yeah.
Pass catching out of the backfield. When you look at Gus Edwards isn't a typical pass catching back out of the backfield. The one out of the three. Now Tyson Williams showed that Tyson Williams showed that he can catch, but I don't think he's quite the threat with his hands that the Ravens were looking for. Justice Hill has caught balls out of the backfield, but none of us have been impressed with anything that he's done in the regular season when the lights were on.
No.
So I don't think the Ravens are done here at RB3. Do they make a run at maybe making a trade? We talked about Houston a little while ago, right? Houston is in a position where they're garage sailing pretty much everybody. They're trying they're going through a full-on rebuild process at this point. They've got about 3 or 4 backs there. I don't know who made the roster. I didn't check Houston's roster before we went live, so I don't know who made it and who was cut. But a guy like Phillip Lindsay, an undrafted free agent that the Ravens were high on coming out of the undrafted free agent class that year, ended up going to Denver. We obviously know what he did in Denver. He's that versatile back, right? He's somebody that can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He's shifty. He's not a north-south kind of guy. I think he would add another dynamic to this team. It's just what would it cost? I think he's like under a $3 million a year contract, so it's not going to completely handicap the team. But a guy like that, I think, would intrigue me.
Yeah, there's two folds to this, right? Because there is the idea of bringing in a veteran back that, like some of the guys you named, a Peterson, a Gurley, a Gore, a Bell, right? Several those guys are all they're at the end of their career or really haven't done anything the past year or so. Especially, one of the things that social media was going, all in on was the idea of Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Right. And it was, I think that whole thought process, Le'Veon Bell has not necessarily been productive, or he's been out of football, one or the other, for the past, we were talking 4 years or so. I think fans look at that, and they're looking at what he did in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the fuck you, Pittsburgh. Right. Like that's kind of what the thought process is. And I get it, but he's not the veteran presence you want. Right. If you're going to go a veteran presence guy, I'm probably saying that's more of a Gurley or a Gore, because they're going to relate a little bit better and probably be more along the lines of what Ingram was to this team. Right. The problem is on the flip side of that is you bring in a veteran guy like that, you could start taking some of the, I don't want to say the leadership of authority, but how guys are starting to look at, Lamar and how they really have been since last year, looking at him in a certain way of, this is our leader, right? You want him to be your leader. You don't want somebody coming in that's not going to be here next year, wasn't here the year before, to be the guy that's leading the team. Could they give some good feedback and stuff like that? Is it a veteran presence in the locker room? Yeah, but you're trying to establish Lamar as the true leader of this team.
I personally, I disagree in a little bit, in a sense. I just think that right now the Ravens are in a position where they need a stopgap fill. I don't think they need anybody for a long-term commitment. So maybe one of these veterans do work in that concept, because obviously the hope is J.K. Dobbins is going to, and we know the work ethic that this guy has and the time that he puts in, this guy's going to bounce back strong and have a great year next year. He's going to come back from this injury like nothing ever happened.
So you're thinking something on a one-year deal?
I think something just to kind of fill the gap would be good. And a Phillip Lindsay who might, want to showcase his kind of talent in an offense like this, that he can sign a contract somewhere else next year. I don't know what his contract status is. I know he's got like a $3 million deal.
I think he signed in the offseason. So, I don't know how the length of the deal, but he signed with them in the offseason.
Okay. Yeah,
so, anything could be, money can be moved around and cuts can be made, but he did just sign a deal.
Right. Okay. We'll see. Like I said, there's a lot of options that the Ravens have at running back. Again, none of us in here are, super Justice Hill fans, so I think all of us are kind of a little disappointed at that RB3 spot. But he does bring that special teams that we talk about, and he's Harbaugh's best friend in that sense.
As the guy that wasn't here, are we going to let him get away with saying he's not the biggest Justice Hill fan? Because I wasn't a fan watching on my keyboard, and I kept hearing one person over and over again say Justice Hill, and everyone else disagreed.
So it wasn't that he was a fan. He was just saying that he thinks he's, out of all the choices you have, he's the one that makes it. Ironically, if Dobbins doesn't get hurt, both of the guys that we were going back and forth aren't making this roster.
Right. 1 year.
Yeah,
Lindsay's on a 1 year deal.
Yeah.
All right, so that would be a perfect fit.
How much?
It's like $3 million.
3.2.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So
for what it's worth, David Johnson's a little over 4.
A little over 4.
With 1 year.
David Johnson wouldn't be a bad option. Like I said, it all really depends on what Houston wants to do. I just think Phillip Lindsay would be a good fit in this offense.
Total guarantee is $1 million. Guarantee signing was $1,000. So
right. So the other running back that we had in the fold, Nate McCrary, who did pretty well also in the preseason. He was cut.
He's gone.
I think he's another one that's a practice squad candidate. I don't see anybody picking him up.
No, he's not going anywhere. Speaking of a guy that protects these guys, we're gonna let Ryan take his news. So he's the one guy that Ryan wanted to cut from day one, from the day that we drafted him. This is a good one. Go ahead.
I always like this because there's some bad news coming from me. But I'm going to give you the good news first. As always, our Michigan draft pick doesn't make the team because the only reason we draft anyone from Michigan is because we're paying off his brother so that he has a little stat that says, look how many people I got drafted. Well, ask him how many are playing the league 6 months later because it's none.
So to fill in the blanks there, Ben Mason was cut today.
I was waiting for him to say the name and he didn't. I was like,
if anyone's watched a show before, they know Big Blue can eat it.
Ben Mason was cut, a 5th-round pick this year. And to kind of tag along with that, we'll go into the offensive line. Another Michigan guy is no longer on the Ravens. However, he was not cut.
He was traded.
He was traded in yet another EDC fleece
yes.
Of the Giants. As
the second fleece that we've seen at Birdland BS this week. We'll get into the other one later.
Ben Bredesen traded to the Giants with a 2022 5th-round pick and 23rd 7th, and we get a 2022 4th-round pick, which will most likely end up being a top 10 pick in the 4th round. The picks that they're getting, the 5th and the 7th, based on where we're projected to finish the year, will probably be a bottom half of those rounds, respectively. This is a damn good deal. Again, for a player that wasn't going to make the squad, to upgrade your 5th and 7th to a 4th, which now gives the Ravens a projected 4 4th-round picks in 2022 if they get the comp picks for Ngakwe and Judon.
So to be clear, we gave up Bredesen and
yes, we gave up
both
Bredesen, a 2022 5th, and a 23rd or 2023 7th to upgrade to a 2022 4th.
Scott, what you're missing here is you have to pay people to take
Bredesen,
Michigan players.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Bredesen,
He's saying it's great. I'm like, because we actually lost we lost technically 3 draft picks to get 1.
No, so here's the thing: Bredesen wasn't going to make the team. So he was going to be cut.
You got something for him. And
that's my point. Is
and
you
I get that,
upgrade.
but you got something for him, and you turn around and you also have to give up 2 other draft picks.
Yeah, but they're, again, lower level picks.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
lower
one
level
of them
picks.
he was a 5th-round pick, right?
Who?
Bredesen.
Bredesen was a 4th-round pick, I think.
Was he a 4th?
I think he was a 4th. Yeah.
Okay, I thought him and Mason, because I thought that was the thing, is like they were back-to-back years of being 5th-round picks.
No, he might have been, but I could have swore he was 4th. But either way, so Bredesen ends up turning into an upgrade at draft pick. The offensive tackle, I know Ryan was high on, that we were all kind of hoping might be a developmental tackle. Adrian Ely, he was cut. Now, again, could be a guy that ends up sneaking into the practice squad and could end up showcasing on the roster later on.
And you saw a veteran in the group, the guy that you actually thought was going to make this. We were going back and forth a lot last week.
He was a bubble guy.
He was a bubble guy, but you thought Schofield was going to make it. He winds up not making it. Neither does Foster Sherrill make it here. So the offensive line, it's, we know there's question marks, but I think they're happy with the guys that they have, right? They don't feel like they need too much else. And some of these guys, they're going to be able to be stashed on the practice squad without a problem.
Let's switch lines. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball.
Now, this was the surprise.
Okay.
The defensive line to go so thin. We were at 5 on the defensive line.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
5. One of these guys goes down, we're screwed. And not to mention, let's think about this. We've got some older guys in here, right? So the surprise of all of them to me, and you said you thought last week, you said, I'll give you credit, you said he thought he was going to be on the bubble. Justin Ellis. Do you think he's going to make it to the practice squad? Because I sure as hell don't think so.
No.
Jelly's played too well in the past.
I don't think he'll be a practice squad guy. He's one of those veterans that doesn't have to clear waivers or anything like that. I think this is a positioning thing. They probably had a handshake agreement that, yes, he's quote-unquote cut, but he will be re-signed, I think, once they actually do the IR designations by 4 o'clock tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll kind of go into who I think might get the IR designation and who might be coming back. But yes, I mean, to your point, if this is his last game or last time as a Raven, that is a huge surprise. Justin Ellis was very valuable on that defensive line. But this is also kind of like what I talked about last week. The Ravens are going through a youth movement, right? They're getting guys. And listen, Broderick Washington showed out. I mean, he had a very good training camp. Yeah. I think Aaron Crawford is another disappointment. Aaron Crawford had a very good training camp. He didn't make the team. The Jovan Swan, he was another guy that was cut on the defensive line. That's not a surprise. But I thought both Washington and Crawford, it was going to be one or the other. They end up going Washington, which I think was the right pick. But I think Aaron Crawford, if he doesn't get picked up by another team, the Ravens would be quick to put him on the practice squad.
He'll be on the practice squad, because then if something happens to Washington with the off the field stuff, then he winds up, they lose nothing there at that point. So it's not a big deal for them. You take a step back and you start looking at the linebackers, right? This was one, again, there was one surprise here that was a bubble situation. You did, again, say Pernell McPhee, you thought he was on his way out, going the youth movement.
A bubble guy.
He was a bubble guy. Chris Smith, Atara Alaka. That was the one that I was kind of surprised, because they released him but kept Ferguson.
Yeah, Alaka was a little bit of a surprise. I thought that he could have been a PUP candidate, so that way you still keep him on the roster, because he's been dealing with injury issues. So that was kind of a surprise. Pernell McPhee, again, I think is one of those handshake agreements. We'll talk about that as well. Chris Smith, I think Chris Smith did great in the preseason. Another guy that I think could get picked up through waivers by somebody else, or maybe get on the practice squad. Ferguson, I think he's shown progress, and he looked better in the preseason. I don't know. He was the one guy that I didn't think would make the roster based on numbers, because I thought they might carry a little bit heavy on the offensive line, or they might carry a little bit heavy on the DBs, and they might have to pull, from the linebacker core and outside linebacker specifically. Yeah. Once they signed Justin Houston, I kind of thought that was it for Ferguson. But look, he looked pretty good in preseason, so again, when they're going through this youth movement, and if Pernell McPhee's days here are done, it makes sense, because a Ferguson will be here more longer term than a guy like McPhee would be.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, the DBs. This is the one that we all went through for a while, including all of you BSers out there. I know Garnett's in the chat room, and I know he's been pumping his chest, because I know he's excited about the guys, because him and I have been big advocates for Chris Westry ever since training camp day one started. And he makes the roster along with our Darius Washington, another guy that I was really high on the undrafted free agent safety out of TCU. He's looked exciting. Again, not real big in size, but he plays much bigger than what he gives. He gives you that flexibility. He can play safety. He can play the slot. So we talk about the Ravens coming down to these last couple of DB spots. It came down to youth, and it came down to versatility and flexibility. And I think this is why a guy like Anthony Levine didn't make the roster. Anthony Levine didn't make the roster because he's an 11-year vet. You know what I mean? They're going through this whole youth movement. And again, contracts are going to be coming due the next year or two. They're going to have to pay for all these guys. They've got to get younger. And I think that was part of this decision. Yeah, fair enough. And I think there's, it was funny, when you hear Wink, and they were talking to Wink, he was, there he is. There he is. He was saying, all right. Jesus. He was saying that if it were up to him, he would have kept every single one of those DBs, right? That's how much 2 wide receivers, right? But here's the deal, right? We still don't know, and I know we're going to get into it, and we're going to talk about it, but Jimmy Smith, what's with the injury, what's happening, what do they do with him? So we could very, very well see an Anthony Levine or a Nigel Warrior come back and be on this roster until we have another healthy DB. So I want to go to the couch on this one. So out of the DBs, right, you had Washington, Westry, Stone, Nigel Warrior, all the young guys that we talked about that could make this roster. Washington makes it. Westry makes it. I think the biggest debate I had, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this, was Geno Stone or Nigel Warrior. They end up going Geno Stone. Nigel Warrior's cut. Do you think that was the right decision?
I'm sorry.
What happened?
I just sat on my headphones.
Oh.
Trying to be all sneaky and then just no.
All right, Nigel Warrior, Geno Stone. They go Stone. Right decision?
I think so. I mean, I don't really have a big opinion on it because you're hoping that those guys are still just set pieces and do their part. But like, maybe Stone just showed a little more and a little less of the little bit of injury worry maybe for Warrior that you could hold on to. And not that he was injured, but it could still pop up. But that was the issues last year.
I know. Yeah, I was gonna say. I know he had the knee issue going into it.
It doesn't really shock me. I think maybe Stone just did a little bit more. One of those camp things where guys look so even.
Right.
There's stuff that the coaches see that we don't.
Right.
It might not even be on the field, where they'd rather have that guy, and that's their guy.
I got you, James. I know you were back and forth with me last week. Anthony Levine. Not saying that his days are done here in Baltimore. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. But were you surprised that he didn't make the initial 53?
I was, but then after it was like sort of like they can save money and bring him back for less.
Right.
Which I think is going to happen. Like you said,
Yeah.
there's a handshake. Hey, you're cut, but technically not cut. Just stay around. Don't sell your
Don't sell your house.
Right. Don't move anywhere. Don't sign it with anybody else. We will bring you back.
I know it's tempting right now with house values.
Unless someone throws out some cash, he'll probably still be here just to finish it out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, see, here's the thing. The whole, going back to the whole Stone.
He's the co-captain, too.
He's co-cap. That's right.
Yeah.
Going back to the whole Stone and Nigel Warrior thing, to Drew's point, Warriors had a little bit of knee issues that he's had to deal with, but he played great. Geno Stone, I'll be honest with you, though, what he showed in training camp, not training camp, but in preseason last year and the little bit that he played to the growth that he had this year was night and day.
And that's where I was going to go with this is they went Geno Stone because of the growth. Last year, Nigel Warrior, when he did get later in the season, he got out there. He was getting picked on a little bit. Right. Geno Stone also had some issues, but I think what they looked at was that progression. Right. He went away. He went to somewhere else, and maybe he thought the grass was greener on the other side, and he wasn't invested. He realized, oh shit, if I'm not invested, I'm not going to be able to get on anywhere. They give him another shot, and he says, all right, I'm invested now. He changed his game. He made the adjustments. I don't know if that's the case, but that was what it would lead me to believe based on what I've seen. And considering this was a guy that just last year they released, I think they kind of said, well, Nigel Warrior didn't do much better. You've had some injuries. We're going to go with Geno. Nigel, I don't think is going to catch on anywhere. I think he'll wind up on the practice squad.
I agree with that.
And I do think, I know we're going to get into it in a minute, but I think Anthony Levine will be back based on an injury situation, and it will be for a much lower value. He wants to end here. Even if somebody gave him an insane offer, which I think very well could happen, somebody could throw a number at him to get the experience on their squad. I don't know that he would take it. I feel like he's said he loves it here. He says he's never wanted to play anywhere else, which we've heard before out of players. I think he truly means it.
Talking about Anthony Levine. See, for me, Anthony Levine is a system guy. He's that Swiss Army knife to us because we know his value. I don't think there's any other team out there that would value Anthony Levine's contributions as much as the Ravens would specifically because he's what he's meant here, for this decade that he's been here. Because, again, we value special teams so high compared to most teams.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion on it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. One name that we haven't talked about yet, Drew's boy, Sean Wade.
That's old shit. That's old shit at this point.
He didn't make the squad. He didn't get cut from the squad. He got traded from the squad. He got shipped out.
To the Pats.
Goes to the Pats, which I think was like my initial reaction to the whole thing is, if you're going to trade Sean Wade, cool, that's fine. That makes sense. But to the fucking Patriots?
Exactly.
God damn it. Why are you going to the Patriots? We end up getting a 2023 5th-round pick and a 2022 7th-round pick for him. I'm going to ask you, Drew, we'll start with you. What do you think this says about Wade and what they thought of Wade as a player?
I still don't know. I don't know what their thoughts are on him. Because it wasn't, it's like a lot of times you do turn that 5th-round pick, and that guy's a stalwart for a few years, and they covet corner, but they kind of covet defensive backs.
Right.
And I get it. So I guess in coping with it, since our conversation the day of the trade, when you keep a guy like Washington and Stone, and you're trying to solidify the safety spot a little more, and Westry shows out, I mean, maybe that spot's stolen. But I hang on to the fact that, like, okay, yeah, maybe he's only good in the slot, and I get it. But you got Jimmy hurt again. Like, that's kind of always. And so, I mean, when's Tavon Young going to get hurt? Because it's coming.
I know.
Right. So that was always my thing, is like, maybe Westry could play the slot. Maybe somebody's, Marlon moves around, so it fits so that Marvin's, he does the moving around and he could fit the slot. But I didn't like it. I've gotten over it since our conversations. I didn't like it when it happened. I hated it.
Oh, I know. I had to talk everybody off the ledge. Trust me, I get it.
I mean, I get it now. I mean, I know that they covet their picks, so I get it. I don't like it, but I get it.
James, you had an opinion?
Yeah, I just hope Wade doesn't turn out to be a fifth-round pick into a Pro Bowler compared to drafting Justice Field and not knowing what you're getting. But
a couple bad trades
out. So
yeah, Justin Fields and Sean Wade are comparable. Yeah.
So here's the thing, and Scott, I want to get your opinion on it too. So here's the thing on Wade. For me, I agree with you 100% on the injury prospects with Jimmy Smith and Tavon Young, right? Like, that's always a concern going into every year. And obviously Jimmy's already banged up, right? The problem is the roster spot limitation, right? And we had so many DBs. It goes back to what I said a couple of minutes ago. It comes back to who brings the most versatility when you get to your depth, right? You need to have guys that are versatile. One of the big things that you loved about Brandon Stevens, for instance, is his ability to kind of play all over. They had ideas of him playing safety. They have ideas of him playing in the slot. They have ideas of him playing outside. Versatility. Sean Wade, very good slot corner in college, terrible outside. He's pigeonholed to that slot corner position. So I really think it just came down to, we need to figure out how many DBs we're going to carry, which they end up carrying 11, which is a lot of DBs, right? And Sean Wade didn't make that list as far as versatility goes. EDC got on the phone, and it sucks. He went to the Patriots. Now, granted, he didn't look very good in his first game with the Patriots. They got a touchdown over top of Sean Wade. I know. I'm not like trying to crap on him or anything. Didn't look great though that game. But either way, he goes to the Patriots, which I think was a little bit of a knife in the side, because I'd rather see him go maybe to the NFC and I never have to worry about him again. But
all I know is, I'll give you Malcolm Butler. I'll give you Gilmore. They get these corners from teams that are
Jackson.
just throws away. There you go.
There you go. That's a good example.
Yeah. And that was like ended up becoming my problem later in that evening. I'm like, yeah, but okay, right. Fred sold me on it, but God damn it, the New England really?
Right.
I think that when you look at it for me, I think the thing is I don't know. You brought up the idea of EDC going to them. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget, Bill Belichick is known for seeing things in people, right? He gives them a chance to see something with them, and he's able to do it, right, consistently, or fairly consistently, we'll say. We don't know that he didn't come calling us.
Very well could. I mean, they knew. Obviously, they put Stephon Gilmore on PUP today, so they knew they were going to be down at least him going into it.
So why not have somebody that can be there and then also be a compliment to him when he comes back, right? And I think somebody just commented that in the chat.
Yeah.
But I know that EDC had to have been thinking, this kid's not clearing waivers.
Right.
That's one of the things we have to look at. We can either get all or nothing. We're not carrying. We carried 11, and we're all going, wow, 11 DBs, but we technically need it. We weren't carrying 12.
Right.
We said 10 when we were in this group, when we were going over the 53, and we were debating maybe an 11th. There wasn't any way it was.
I wanted to keep them all, but we knew that wasn't realistic.
Well, so did Wink. I won't hit the button again, but so did Wink. Right. So, that was pretty good.
Not as soulful.
So that's one of those things that I look at it and say, great on EDC to get something out of it. He was a 5th-round pick. You get a 2023 5th-round pick, but you also get the 2022 7th-round pick. So, we're just continuing to stack on the picks here for next year, which just goes to show you he's looking long-term. It's not – I have a feeling that EDC is looking at everything and saying, we can't become cyclical.
Yeah.
We can't become cyclical. We need to have the depth. We need to have the options and growth. We need to be able to grow these guys.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that winds up coming. Some of these guys are going to wind up being able to be pieces that you can grow and you can develop over the next 2 years-ish, right? But some of them are going to be day one. Some of them, EDC looks like a goddamn genius this year.
Yeah, and this is kind of where I wanted to wrap this up. So I know a lot of fans out there look at this as, well, they cut Ben Mason, and they trade Sean Wade. Both 5th-round picks this year. Never saw the field for the Ravens in a regular season game. That's a big miss.
Yeah.
And I'll halfway agree with you.
And Aiden Ely was my 5th-round pick, so he didn't make it easy.
I'll halfway agree with you. The Ben Mason pick was a stupid pick to begin with. It was an insurance pick because Pat Ricard had the surgery in the offseason, and they weren't 100% sure whether he was going to be ready in time. So it was an insurance
It was a combination of what happened with Ricard and Boyle.
But they could have.
Insurance pick because he can't beat Ohio State.
So to me, I've always said since day one, the Ben Mason pick was a bad pick. But here's the thing with the Sean Wade thing. This was a good problem to have. This wasn't that Sean Wade was terrible. This was your general manager went out and found a bunch of undrafted free agents that fucking outperformed a 5th-round pick. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
You go out and you get guys like Washington and Stone. Stone was a draft pick last year.
You could even argue outperforming veterans like an Anthony Levine.
Right.
Right? I mean, you can make that argument. So that's why I'm saying, like, this draft, he looks as a whole, not just, the picks themselves, but those undrafted. I think we had, was it 3? Was it 3 undrafted guys this year?
That made the roster?
Yeah.
Well, Westry was an undrafted guy 2 years ago. He ended up going with the Cowboys for a little bit, so he's technically an undrafted free agent. Washington and who's the other guy?
I'm drawing a blank. That's why I was looking at you. I couldn't remember how many it was.
Multiple choice list in front of us.
Yeah. But anyway, the whole point of saying that is that he's done a lot with so little. Because what was the biggest thing that we all talked about this offseason? Can he stay under the cap?
Right.
He not only did he stay under the cap and saved room in the cap for something potentially down the road, but he did it and did it with guys from an undrafted standpoint, guys that nobody else was willing to give a chance to, guys that were cut by teams over the past few years, guys like Oliver, Stone. These guys were cut by teams over the past few years. The Josh Oliver pickup.
Right.
Again, looks genius move because this kid comes out and looks like he could be a true tight end too if you let him.
Potentially. I mean, he's got that potential for sure, especially as a pass catcher. But he was talking about Oliver, he's a much better blocker than I ever thought he would be. He's a pretty complete tight end. So I think Oliver was 100% a steal. But let's get back to this whole IR designation. So for those that don't know, you have to, whoever you're going to put on this IR designated spot or spots, they have to make the initial 53-man roster, which is what you saw today. Today is the initial 53-man roster. As of 4 p.m. tomorrow, they can submit who's going on to the temporary IR, which basically puts a player on a 3-week IR list that they can come back from after 3 weeks. So it's not PUP, which commits you to 6 weeks. This is halfway there. It's 3 weeks. So who are the names of the players that are could potentially get put on that IR designation?
Hollywood, Bateman.
We know Bateman for sure will be on that list. I would say 95% for sure. Hollywood, I'm not 100% sure there. I think he'll be ready for week 1, so Hollywood should be fine. Miles Boykins, who we haven't talked about him yet, actually making the roster. I didn't even want to bring his name up because I know how we'll all go off on that one.
He's going to be a perpetual pothole in the perpetual IR is what it's going to be.
Boykins made the initial 53, but he's been dealing with hamstring issues and whatnot. He could go on to an IR designation. Obviously, Nick Boyle, which we've talked about. We don't know what his status is. According to Harbaugh, he won't be ready for week 1. So to me, that sounds like an IR designation.
He'll be ready early in the season. Which, honestly, I'm actually happy about that because I don't want them rushing him back.
I don't either.
Right?
He's too important to the offense.
Him, a Bateman, some of these other guys.
I don't think he needs to go PUP.
You don't want to rush these guys back, right? We've seen what happens when teams have rushed guys back. It winds up a re-injury or retriggering or making it worse, or they're putting so much weight on the other leg that they wind up having an issue with that leg. So it's good that they're doing this, and I'm happy to hear it. I do agree with you. We'll see him. We'll probably see him week 4.
Right.
Week 5. That's probably where we're going to wind up seeing him.
Yeah. The other name, obviously, Jimmy Smith. His kind of injury progress, his healing progress has not gone as fast as I think they initially anticipated or hoped.
Yeah.
He could go on IR, and I'm okay with that too. The only thing that sucks is what Jimmy brings in value. I mean, he's a good corner all around, but what he brings in value specifically is how he covers tight ends.
Yeah.
You know who we play the first 3 weeks of the fucking season, right?
Waller.
Darren Waller, yeah, Kelsey, and
Three of the 5 top tight ends in the league.
Yeah, I can't remember who the third one is. They've got 3 of the top 5 tight ends, and the other one's on our squad. You know what I mean? We're going against the best of the best. So that kind of sucks if Jimmy's not healthy, but it sounds like he's probably heading towards an IR. But again, we've got 11 DBs on this roster as it stands right now. So we've got depth, to Garnett's point. This is depth at corner and DB that we've never seen, that we've never had in the past.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Justice Hill, still dealing with that injury issue. Could we see him go on the IR? More than likely we will. So we could see 4 or 5 guys go on the IR list, which gives you 4 or 5 roster spots to then add back for that week 1 matchup. So we've talked about some of these names already. We figure Pernell McPhee will probably be one of those 5. Anthony Levine could very well be one of those 5. Mm-hmm. Tomlinson for sure, especially if Boyle is not ready. He'll be in there as a tight end 3 option for that blocking ability. Your guy, Justin Ellis, Jelly, we talked about him. They're thin on the defensive line, so I think he makes sense. And then potentially either bringing back McCrary as that RB3, if Justice Hill does go, or bringing in an outside option.
Yeah, I mean, I think week 1 is going to tell us a lot.
Yeah.
Week 1 is going to tell us a lot of where they're going to go long term, right? Because what are you going to do? Okay, when some of these guys get activated, okay, you activate Boyle. We all assume Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Then who do you bring back, right? If somebody else goes down, right? Boyle's coming back. Who else do you? If he goes down again, something else happens.
That's why you get a guy like your boy, what's his, Boljan or whatever his last name. Yeah, if he's on the practice squad, there's your 4th tight end.
Stopgap. Yeah, right. if you need to. So there's a lot of question marks. I'm interested to see tomorrow because I think they have to have him submitted for tomorrow for week 1, right?
Yeah, by 4 p.m.
Right. So that's going to be the test, and then what happens to some of these guys in week 1 because. We're talking about having a lot of depth, and that's great. But, you look and you say, okay, what do we have on the practice squad? We have a few guys.
Right.
But we have a few guys at only a few positions.
Right.
They're kind of clustered. So I think we wind up seeing them, go after some guys on other practice squads to fill. Maybe somebody from free agency to fill that gap. Obviously, free agency is probably priority number 1, seeing if they can get somebody. I'm sure we're going to see, talks tomorrow or something coming out tomorrow right after that.
Go Man says, come on, y'all. Boykin is our biggest wide receiver. So, yes, he is our biggest wide receiver. And if there's anything, I talked to, shout out to Coach Evans, talked to him on his stream last night a little bit about it. If there's any one thing that you can say is a saving grace for Miles Boykin is that he is a hell of a blocking wide receiver, and there's not a ton of those on this roster right now with who's on this squad. So I think that was his saving grace as to why he actually has a roster spot. I was kind of surprised that Benjamin Victor didn't make the roster because he showed out. He showed out in that Washington game. He's looked really good in training camp. 6'4", he doesn't have his body isn't filled out like Boykin's, and he's not a blocking wide receiver, but he's a guy that I was surprised didn't make this squad.
If that's what you're feeling is his biggest value,
it's his only value.
Okay, so then why not make the shift to tight end there, right? We've talked about that.
It's a big transition. I mean, it's not as easy as what Waller did. Waller easily had 25 pounds on Boykins. Boykins would have to put on a lot of weight. And again, there's no guarantees, with how he would transition over to tight end. Just because it worked for one doesn't mean it'll work for other.
Fair enough.
If you're ready to give up on him and nobody else wants to take him, and you put him on the practice squad and you develop him as a tight end project, kind of like what they did with who was that? It was like an offensive lineman. Was it Crockett Gilmore? I can't remember. It was a tight end that we developed. That we developed a couple years back. But either way, maybe that happens down the road. But I think Boykin is just in a bad situation. I think he needs a fresh start somewhere else in another offense.
Garnett, this is why I was saying there are too many injuries to bring back older veterans that have one purpose.
Right. I agree.
But you can't do that with younger guys either that only have one purpose.
Right. And that's going to be the end-all, be-all for Anthony Levine. Like I said, I think Anthony Levine might come back while the IR, designation is given, and they have that flexibility. But once players start to get healthy and players start to come back, you might see Anthony Levine released again.
Hopefully. Because if you don't keep people healthy, there'll be plenty of spots for him.
Well, no, that's very true.
Yeah, it could be a rotating door at that point, and then he just stays there. That's not a bad point. So,
well, one thing we didn't talk about yet, obviously, it was the third preseason game. It's the last preseason game of the year. It sucked. I mean, you wanted to see the ones out there for at least a couple of drives, Lamar get work, but I only wanted to see Lamar out there if the ones were out there on the offensive line. The ones were out there. Still debate as to who that starting left guard's going to be. But Ben Cleveland was out there for a good bit. You saw Ronnie Stanley out there. Lamar looked good. He had a real nice pass to Mark Andrews outside the numbers. It looked good.
Yeah.
But
you saw the question mark with the offensive line, seeing the sack, early there.
Right.
So it's that huge question mark of what the hell is going to happen. It's not even just who's going to be where. It's also, can this line stay healthy?
Yeah.
Because if they can't, what do you have in the wings?
Right.
You really don't have a lot waiting in the wings.
Right. Well, you saw why everybody has hesitations in playing starters in the preseason in this game, because J.K. Dobbins gets, 9 plays?
True. Are you still crying over there?
Yeah, it's just perpetual, like a waterfall.
It was brutal.
Corner of my eye ever since.
I mean, I knew it as soon as he got hit, just in the awkwardness and the way his knee bent back, that it wasn't good. I've seen it one too many times. I know we talked, Ryan made a good point, like Giannis. We thought Giannis was going to be done for a year, and he came back and ended up winning the NBA Finals for Milwaukee. So you never know until you know, but it was pretty bad, and it sucks, man, because like I said, JK is just such a hard worker, and he's poised to have a big year in this offense. I mean, you could even see if you watch the game, if you paid attention to John Harbaugh on the sideline, you could just see like the utter disappointment I think he had in himself for having them out there and taking that risk. And he carried that with him literally through the entire game. Players are high-fiving around him and cheering because like, Tyler Huntley had fucking a great game. He went off, and I mean, he looked awesome, and he solidified himself as number 2 quarterback. And everybody's high-fiving and having a good time, and Harbaugh the entire time looked like he had just lost his best puppy. You know what I mean? Like, he looked so sad and so disappointed at himself. And, it's hard for me to pick a side on this because I understand both arguments behind it. I've always thought that these guys, they get hurt doing anything. I mean, we saw Sergio Kindle fall down a flight of stairs. We saw Terrell Suggs fuck his ankle up playing basketball.
Harb should have listened to John Guggs. He says FedEx and Capital One Field have bad stories with histories of ACLs. It's 100% true there.
That's true. That is true.
Or broken leg.
Yeah, what yard line did that happen on? Did it happen on the same yard line as Theismann and fucking
Alex Smith?
Alex Smith?
It's all of DC because the Terps have the same issue. That's why we replaced our field this year.
Yeah, right, exactly. Go ahead.
I just want to say, I know you guys aren't going to agree on it, but maybe Ryan. I just want to let you know, Lamar comes down with COVID again. He might lose his job.
No, I'm not going to agree on that one.
Yeah, not going to agree on that one.
For the amount of money we are paying, 100%, it's fine. Lamar's great. I just think if you could pay this guy 5 and Lamar 46, I'm taking 5.
Huntley showed out.
Really,
he showed out in this game. Argument. He looked good. And he was throwing, to a couple of guys that didn't even make the roster. You had Deion Kane out there, which he didn't do himself any favors in that game. He had a couple of drop passes in that game. Benjamin Victor looked good in that game. Prochet had his best pro catch. It was a phenomenal catch with basically swallowing the dude's arm with the football.
Helmet coming off.
The helmet came off. He gave him the death stare, which will get you fined and get you a penalty.
He was fine. We'll get. That's in the rundown. He was fine, and I can't remember the wide receiver later on because I wasn't watching the game, but I can't remember the other wide receiver. But Prochet got up, did a little thing. It was a little tall, but it was pretty minuscule. No fine. And the other guy literally just did this. And they threw the flag. It's like, come on.
I understand.
We'll get to that later,
yeah, we'll talk about it. I understand cracking down on it a little bit, but this shit's just ridiculous. You're taking all the fun out of the game. But anyway, so Prochet, like I said, had that great catch. They bring up the fact that this is the 20th anniversary since the Jamal Lewis situation. Touche. That's a good point as well. I don't know. These guys got to get work. They got to get work with the one. So I'm not one to say just sit your starters until week one. This isn't Madden. Like, these guys got to get into rhythm with each other. I know that, they do these inter squad practices with other teams now, and that kind of simulates like a preseason game, which is also why they cut it down to 3 preseason games and there's not 4 anymore. But shit like this can happen at any given time to any given person. It's just really unfortunate with JK.
Yeah, it's bad timing, bad situation. You don't want to see it. It's the flip of the coin. It's why so many teams debate how long do we put our stars out. You got to get them some type of reps, right? You got to make sure they're in. There's a difference between 2-3 shape and 1 shape, right? We've seen guys that they can do well against 2-3s, but you put them in against 1s and they start to struggle. Right. And that's my one thing about the whole Huntley thing is I ask that people just temper just a little bit. I'm not saying he couldn't do it against 1s, but let's remember he was doing it against 2s, and in the latter half he was doing it against 3s. He's doing it against guys that they're looking at going, do we want you? Do we not want you? Some of them are showing out and doing great. Same thing. How do they perform against 1s? Right. So it's a double-edged sword. You have to be very, very careful about thinking in that way. Oh, this guy did great. This guy did great. Because what does he do? Prochet. Truth test is going to be what does he do against some of these top-tier cornerbacks in the league? Yep. What's he going to do if he goes up against a Jalen Ramsey? If they have him Jalen covering him for whatever reason. Right. I get what you're saying. There's things that can happen, and that can start messing with the confidence of a guy too. Right. So he gets all high, and the first time he goes against a 1 and he gets himself burned, he gets crossed up or whatever, and he gives up the interception because he did something wrong. It's a different ballgame.
I agree. Flock Nation says, but here comes the bus. I agree with you, buddy. I have all the faith in the world. Gus Bus will step up and be a good RB1. Go ahead, James.
This could be a learning experience for us because technically what we could do is not play our starters at all in the preseason and count the game 1 as the 4th would be like, so it'd be like the 4th preseason since you have an extra game.
I mean, yeah, I get that to a degree, but
it's something new.
Well, I understand, but you saw a lot more teams this. He does have a point. You saw a lot more teams this season that their ones only got what 1 series.
Yeah, are you treating week 1
Chiefs
as a fucking preseason game if it's the Chiefs?
Well,
no, you're not.
Absolutely not.
But if you lose it, it's not a big deal because you have an extra game.
Okay, but you bring up the Chiefs. Andy Reid played his starters for an entire half in the 3rd game.
Yeah.
Entire half. Andy Reid's no shit coach. Like, people need to calm down.
Right.
I mean,
there's different ways to play
and
this.
honestly, the Ravens have gone backwards with this because
there's no right way to play it.
They used to be that team. They would play, their starters in the 3rd game up until the first half, and then that would be it. And the 4th game was the backups. The Ravens have really cut back on how much the starters are playing. So the Ravens are going in that direction. And even Harbaugh said in his press conference that they've cut back on now that. But again, it goes to show you, all it takes is 1 series. It takes 1 play to fucking change something.
But Vegas didn't play any of their starters.
Yeah, well, we'll see how ready Vegas is week 1.
1,700 yards for Gus. That is a big call.
1,700 yards, a lot of yards.
Far better only be rushing for like 600.
Yeah. I mean, that maybe 1,700 total yards, but even that is a stretch because he's not a huge receiving back. I would say with the extra game, if Gus is healthy, I think the 1,200 to 1,300 yard mark would be a good, potentially realistic
I'm
goal.
not far off. I was thinking 1,100 to 1,200 is kind of where I was thinking.
He's
with the
put
extra
up
carries. He's probably going to get.
He's put up close to 800 yards splitting carries. So if he's going to be primary back 1, and an extra week, I could see him hitting that like 1,200 yard mark.
I like what I'm
just
hearing.
in my opinion.
I'll give you a 3rd round draft pick.
No, I'm good.
That's never going away.
Maybe a 3rd round draft pick, and it'll go away when Fields takes off, and everyone's
yeah.
Just remember who
All
got
right,
the title
Ryan.
in the keeper league.
It's time for a social media shout out. I have not been able to pay attention to the chat room, so tell me who's been out there and what's everybody saying.
It's been pretty heavy, so if
Good.
I missed you, sorry about that. It's hard to keep track of what I wrote down. Joe C. was in with the first comment with not Trace. I just want to say I'm happy the world is back to normal. I don't have any more Penn State people I have to cheer for, and I can continue to hate life. Because I was a little sad when I was sitting there in the preseason with Fred a couple years ago and goes, oh, this guy's actually a decent quarterback. Maybe he could be a backup. No longer. See you later, buddy. Chuck Summers, Dominic Henson, Kaylee Shamel, Garnett West, Steven Severs, Sherry Reedy, John Googs, C. Iron Addict, Craig Zero, Jamal Caldwell, Joe Shipley, Troy, Ben Cleveland Stan, Adit Mahood, Go Man, Dave from Big Play checked in, wanted to know if we had the Chubb Crush. Apparently, is their beer they're drinking. He's hung up to hear our
You just got
response
corrected,
later.
by
I
the
don't
way.
know what you just said to me.
You just got corrected. Troy says, Troy Ben Cleveland Stan says, I mean, we still have a way.
Oh, God damn it.
You're right.
I think I saw Gary William in there too. So we
That's right.
appreciate all you guys chiming in.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we got Troy H., John Carr, Jared Old Green, Flock Nation, and then William Sable said he's excited to see what Williams does at RB2.
Yeah.
The number 2 has been solid for years. He's right. We always find some kind of backup role. They've been good for years, no matter who they are, how much of a journeyman they've been. They're always good.
He also put a prediction out there, says Gus will have a prime Todd Gurley type of year. Call me optimistic. I like it. You got a lot of people out here calling for the same number I was saying, about 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. Fucking, I think someone over on that casting couch would be a little happy if he ends up with 12
So
touchdowns.
glad I drafted him.
so.
With Dobbins.
I hope so.
Did anyone think Huntley was awesome? Of course. Yeah, we just talked about that. I mean, he
Gus-
looked great.
John says Gus will get 1250 and 13 touchdowns.
Hey, man, I'm for it. I'll even take a loss against Drew if Gus Edwards has a huge game. I'm for it. I'm okay.
You should just give him a loss when you play him.
Yeah.
Living legend.
Is that what I traded him? Did I trade him a loss? Was that part of the deal?
Well,
Yeah,
what
could've
did Craig say there? Craig just said something about it messing with our schedule.
Let's see.
You forget the fact that the schedule can fuck us up. What if we play a divisional round week 1 next year?
I can't think of a season where we started the. Oh yeah, we did.
last year
We
with
started.
Cleveland.
That's right.
beat-
Yeah,
we
we
beat
did
the
start.
shit out of
But they,
That's right.
They seem to be back.
There's a couple years ago we started
schedules
against
now,
the Bengals. You're right.
Well,
Yeah,
you
okay.
want to, which makes sense because you should backload the schedule a little bit more because you should make your later games in the year mean more. So if you're playing, I think the last 4 of every year, the last 4 games should be divisional games. Period. There should be no out of division games.
Craig says, Fred, what if we signed Joe Nubo as a replacement for LJ4? Listen, all the respect in the world for Nubo. He's lost some weight. He looks good, man. Keep trugging with it, Nubo, but I don't want to see him out on Ravens Field anytime soon.
At least Owe.
Unless we're winning a Super Bowl and he's out there with all the fans celebrating.
At least Owe lost to the Terps. I didn't. Trace McSorley pretty much won all the time.
So Bruce said, "What is your guess for the score versus Vegas?" We're gonna get into that next week because
Yeah.
obviously the first game. This is the weird thing, right? Is that our first game is still
2
we
weeks
still have
away.
a buffer of a week.
Right.
This isn't like it was before with the 4th week. So in all reality, all they did was they added another bye week. Basically, there's a pre season bye week is the way that I look.
I'm
at
all
it.
right with that, though. Give
Yeah.
a chance for players that were banged up to get a little bit of rest going into the season and be ready for
Hey,
week
the
1.
Terps got a quarterback that had an ACL tear like 4 months ago that's playing. So maybe JK just turned this around.
All right, Scott, it's time for some bros, bows, and O's, and let's talk about them 40 and 90 O's.
God damn it.
40 and 90.
Do we have to?
No,
Do
we don't.
have
Let's
to?
make this quick.
We're gonna be
Breeze
quick.
through
Let's make this real
Breeze.
quick.
So then 18 versus the Rays.
So the
You're welcome, Tampa.
The first thing, right, is the losing streak finally ended at
Finally.
19 with a win over the Angels on last Wednesday, 10-6.
Wait a second. You can't just say that it was a win over the Angels.
I was going to let you go that route.
They
Go ahead.
fucking
Almighty.
beat Shohei Ohtani and hit 2 home runs off of him in the first inning
Yes.
alone.
It
Fred's
looked good.
son started it out with first pitch.
That's
Yeah.
right. First pitch off Ohtani.
That's
Yard work.
the whole reason he wanted to bring
Yard
this up.
work.
That was a come from
Proud
behind game.
Papa.
Yeah, they did come from behind, which normally they aren't able to.
Listen, even with that start against Ohtani, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yep, they're still going to lose this fucking game.
Well,
whatever.
Right, exactly. But then they turn around the next night, and on Thursday, they win again 13-1.
Yeah.
So 2 in a row. Whoa, right? Yeah, exciting. And then they lose the next one, right? Some good things here. You saw a catcher doing well.
Yeah, with the bat. Pedro Severino has got a little hot. He had the grand slam versus the Angels, which was fucking fantastic because we give Pedro Severino so much shit on this show.
Yeah,
and rightfully so because he's a terrible defensive catcher. But to get that grand slam and to watch him slow trot it around the bases like he just won the World Series was fucking great.
Yeah, it was good.
Hysterical.
Well,
it would have pissed me off if it was against us, but because it was for us, it made me chuckle.
He had a good week.
Yeah, he had a couple doubles versus the Rays on Saturday. So he's starting to swing the stick well, along with our rookie.
Yeah, this is one of those things. Mountcastle is now 25 behind just Eddie and Cal for rookie home run record.
Yeah, he's got 25 now in the year. Eddie and Cal had 27, so he's now 2 home runs behind the rookie record. I think he'll hit that.
AL Rookie of the Year candidate?
Hell, they haven't even put him in consideration, which is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
It's absolutely absurd. In my book, yes, Ryan Mountcastle will be the Rookie of the Year. It's the one thing we can hang our hat on. That and my son having a great year. Even through all the bullshit, Cedric Mullins is still having a great year. That's okay. He's been best all around, MVP.
Yeah. They also lost 3 straight to the Rays.
Surprise, surprise.
Total in this series, they lost 22-14 run wise.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this year's run differential? It's absurd. Yeah. That's on the good side.
The one great thing was Saturday. Did you see the slide by Jorge Mateo
to avoid the tag?
It was Baez-esque.
Yeah.
Right, getting around the tag, and not he was dead to rights. Which with his speed was crazy.
See, I think it was a hit and run. I don't think he was running it 100%.
It was a strike him out, throw him out situation.
It was a hit and run, so he wasn't giving it 100%. Because when I first saw it, I wasn't watching the game. I saw the highlights of him with the play. I'm like, what the fuck? Why was it even close? It's Jorge Mateo. Mateo. Right. Like, what's the point? But yeah, that's what it was. It was a hit and run.
Great to see. Then there's Paul fucking up Fry.
Oh my God.
This guy.
Should have traded him when we had any value for that guy.
Okay, let's talk about it. A third of an inning on Sunday, 4 runs.
Have you seen these numbers, Drew?
I'm so mad that I defended not trading him.
I wasn't going to bring that up. That was on you.
Oh, I was totally, because we're going to get to the other stats in a second.
Go ahead, Ryan. Oh, I thought you were about to say something.
When does he ever have anything to say about the World?
I thought he did.
But so, credit
Wait
to
for my turn.
No, I thought you were going to say that.
Credit to John Boy Media and Talking Baseball. If you guys haven't watched this, we were actually watching a little bit pre-show. They're great.
John Boy is great.
Trying to get Jimmy on the show. He is hilarious with his breakdowns. James actually was showing the one where they were in Cleveland and he broke down Brandon Hyde being thrown out in the first inning.
It was hysterical.
It was hysterical.
If you haven't followed him on social media, look up John Boy, Jomboy. Yeah. His videos are absolutely hysterical, and the one he's talking about is specifically when Brandon Hyde was going at the umpire. It's fucking
it's
great.
Hilarious, and because he's truly reading lips too, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So you get a real insight. So, but Paul, yeah, right. Paul Fry, take a listen to these numbers against the Rays.
I don't want to.
Can
I mute you?
1 1/3 innings. He's given up 8 hits. 15 earned runs, 17 runs total.
You guys, don't let Mo hear this.
11 walks, 0 strikeouts.
What even is the ERA on that? I mean, Christ, 1 1/3, and you gave up 15
you really want to know?
No, I don't,
like
because the decimal
115,
points are probably endless. It's ridiculous. It's got to be ridiculous.
It's 16.75.
Ugh.
That's it?
Yuck.
That's it.
That's it?
It's a run an inning. That's what it is. That's
21.
ERA. It's runs per 9.
Why did we not get rid of him and trade him when he had any value?
Yeah, no.
But on the good side, we talk about giving away people, getting rid of people. Maikel Franco was released.
He was released.
Thank God. That was overdue, long overdue.
And then you see them bring up Gutierrez 2 weeks ago, who's been fairly productive at third base, had a nice play. He's got a solid arm, actually. I'm excited to see him. Jahmai Jones comes up last Tuesday.
Yep.
We talked about this, but he's had some struggles that you were talking about before.
Yeah, 20 at-bats, 2 hits, 1 being the double, but he's struck out 8 times. So that's kind of the alarming thing, but I'd much rather him be here because he's got the potential to be a part of our future. Franco was just taking up a roster spot.
He's also a great defensive second baseman.
Yeah, you signed Franco in the hopes that he would get hot and you could trade him for something. Well, that ship long sailed away long time ago.
Like 2 weeks into May.
Yeah, this shit was long gone. That's already docked and been back out. So to let him go was long overdue. I'd rather a guy like Jones be up here, get his knocks, and, you know, it is what it is.
The chat room is going crazy. The Orioles.
UMD baseball could probably beat the Orioles, and I would not disagree with that.
Wouldn't doubt it. But look, we were named 2 weeks ago, and we maintained it again this week. #1 farm system in the league. Something to be proud of. You've got Bowie, who's doing really well, who actually tagged us in something. We might try to work out. We're going to maybe try to work something out this year, but if it doesn't work out this year, we're definitely going to do something next year. They have invited us to do a live show at the Bay Sox Stadium, so we're going to figure that out. That actually this all just came to fruition today, last night and this morning. So.
Yeah, so if it doesn't happen this year, it'll definitely happen next year. We'll plan an outing for everybody to come out there. Hopefully by then, all the good prospects have moved up and past the Bay Sox at that point.
Good guys like
right, exactly. We'll see all the 2021 draft class at Bowie.
Well, and you know, in Bowie right now, one of the things they were promoting for tonight was a 6:30 game. Grayson Rodriguez, they were giving away a koozie about him, but he did really well on Saturday. He threw 5 innings. He had 9 Ks. He gave up 2 runs on 3 hits. On the year, 21-year-old guy. Remember this. 144 strikeouts.
Hold on. 144 strikeouts in how many innings?
90 innings.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
He's averaging almost a strikeout and a half per inning.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. His Ks per 9, 14.4 average. 24 walks. That's the bigger number.
Yeah.
24 walks in 90 innings.
Yeah, that's impressive. 2.6 ERA in 20 starts so far for the year.
Just for those of you that can't do quick math, that's 1 every 4 innings.
Yeah, he's as advertised. And you know what? At the level that he's at right now, he doesn't really even have to pitch smart to dominate. You understand what I'm saying? Like, when he gets to the major league level and he actually has to use his brain and he has to use some of these, you know, pitch location and changing his speeds, and when he actually unlocks some of his mechanics, I really think this guy's going to be the total package of that top of the rotation kind of guy.
Just don't fuck with him too much.
I thought,
100% agree.
I thought the catcher did all those things. The catcher doesn't do all those things.
Adley's moved up and he's still performing. It's okay.
The catcher doesn't control everything the pitcher does.
But no, so the one other thing, right, that happened, we're going to hit this, and then we're going to get into 2 quick questions I want to ask you guys. We talked about this last week, actually, and then we saw it come to fruition this week. Jorge Lopez is moved to the bullpen, and he's embraced it. No other corresponding moves, but he has embraced his role so far. He looked okay. He looked decent.
He should embrace the fact that he's got a job in the major leagues right now.
He's going to be a good middle reliever. He only has to face once, maybe twice around the lineup. Not 3.
I just
Ryan, such a dick. But yes. Listen, I think that's going to be his saving grace. He's got the ability. He can get guys out for a stretch. It's that second or third time through the rotation that always is for
It's especially the third.
That's what Adit's saying.
Go ahead, James.
I just love hearing Brandon Hyde after the game because it's like, what more can you say? How bad?
I feel so bad for him.
He's like, can we go back to a shortened season?
Yeah.
And it's always like when I get off of work when the game's over, so I'm driving, I'm just dying. I'm like, what can you possibly say? Like, this guy looked great tonight. There's
not a whole lot of positives. That's why we have to talk so much about the down on the farm.
Well, let's talk for a second. Speaking of the farm, right? DJ Stewart kind of really.
Oh, God. When is that project over?
Right, exactly. We got brought back up to memory with the whole Hyde thing because in that same game, DJ Stewart on a fly ball, a routine fly ball, he falls down in that game. But this past weekend, on Saturday, he runs into the wall twice on fly balls, misses both of them, and almost gets hurt on both of them. Look, I appreciate the effort, but the guy, his bat is good at times.
It's not worth it. Hold on, Scott threw him under the bus. This guy gave your son a ball.
He did. Well, technically, he didn't.
I was at the game.
Technically,
with my son.
No, he did. I'll give him. I said he's a nice guy, right? He threw my son a ball, but
he's just clumsy as fuck.
Well, what I didn't tell you guys in that story is that's like the 5th or 6th time he's tried throwing the ball to Wyatt, and every other time it's been way the other way around, somewhere in front, behind, to the right, to the left. It's been crazy.
But look, give him a bigger target. I don't know what to tell you.
I got an orange catcher's mitt. If he can't hit that, we got a problem. Anyway, it got me thinking.
Catcher's mitt.
Diaz has had some struggles recently.
Even I don't take a catcher's mitt to an Oriole game.
All right. So hold on, time out. There are levels of weirdos at baseball games. You got kids with gloves, cute. You got an adult.
You got Scots with
without a
catcher's
glove,
mitts.
that's fine. You got an adult with a glove, little weird. Adult with a catcher's mitt in the outfield?
Hold on a second.
What are we doing?
Has anybody in this room? Hold on. Before you hear me out, has anybody?
Orange. It's bright orange.
Oh,
too.
so does he wear it as a hat? If he wears it as a hat, it makes more sense.
It's a
God,
black.
you set yourself up
It's
for
a
this.
black
You
mitt
just
with
do that.
orange. Whatever. It gives him a target. Whatever. Anyway, as far as taking a glove, I'm going to tell you this. I dare you to catch a home run with your bare hand, because you'll do it once and you'll never ever do it again.
All right, again, but a glove is designed to catch a fly ball. Catcher's mitts, professional catchers.
I'm not catching it.
Fly balls a lot because a catcher's mitt is very hard to use to do it.
I'm not
Because
using
it's a solid piece of steel, basically.
Scott's out there like the manual. Scott's out there like the manual hit it here sign. Like, here, hit it here.
Look, it's got a target on it. If you can't hit it for the kid, you shouldn't be in the majors. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's good to sit on because it's like that round.
Yeah, right.
It's like a donut.
Anyway, all right, moving along, because we got to get through this Orioles segment. So Diaz has had some struggles recently. He's a guy. I'm talking about Stewart and replacing him. Diaz is a guy that's had some struggles recently. You may catch a ball with a beer. Okay, John, I'm going to challenge you to catch a home run ball with a beer.
Hey,
I saw
a man.
baby.
I saw a man drop a baby, catch a ball, and catch the baby midair. That's a man. That is a man.
You know what that man? You know what happened to that man?
If there's a bar,
That man got his ass reamed out by his wife that night.
I'm sure he did. But he was like, "Hey, babe, it all worked out. Baby's good. I got a ball."
Exactly.
They do top 10 where they're catching balls like this, like it's nothing. Scott's like, have you ever catch a hand?
Go ahead. 105 miles, 120 miles an hour off the bat. Go ahead and catch it. I dare you. You'll do it once and you'll never do it again.
No,
I've done it. I will never do it again.
Because you got
So,
those soft hands.
Real quick, I did trying to said also for those wondering about when Grayson Rodriguez will get to AAA, Eric Arditi from Barstool, friend of the show, tweeted something about buying gas cans at Norfolk. Looks like Grayson could finish in AAA, and that I'm hopeful. I really am. I think that'd be a good projection for him to get to AAA, get a little bit of a taste of that, and then start there more than likely next season.
Okay, let me get to the question I've
Hold
been
on.
trying.
Drew had a comment.
My rebuttal to that would be, I know Bowie's like, I think they got like a game or two. They own like the second spot
seed,
in their league.
Right.
You'd much rather have him still pitching in Bowie for the rest of the year, because if they're playing playoff games, there's a more likelihood you're playing more games. Whereas Norfolk, once the season ends, they're
good
below
point.
500, so they're done.
That's a good
That'd
point.
be my
Actually,
rebuttal to
that's
that,
what the Bay Sox were talking to us about today, was that this upcoming week would be the last week unless they make the playoffs.
Well, yeah, next week, the 13th through the 19th. So,
Right.
But my question was, Diaz has had some struggles recently. If we're talking about just replacing Stewart, it's, could we see Diaz in September? I think we kind of are all probably in agreement. It would be really nice to see Diaz, to just get him up here, see what he can do in September. It's not costing anything, and just stop the DJ Stewart experiment.
Yeah, DJ Stewart, it needs to go.
Yeah.
Listen, like you said, Diaz hasn't been playing great, but I do want to see him up here. At some point, you got to at least give the kid a shot. He had all this potential, and it's just sitting there, dying away at AAA. You got to bring him up.
So outside, I'm going to say this, outside of Adley and Michael Ballman, those are the two that I'm going to put off limits for this. What's one guy that you would really like to see in September?
Kyle Bradish.
Okay.
Drew.
You steal my answer.
I'm sorry.
You know I would have answered. You know I would have answered.
I had to get it in before you said anything.
It's fine if they're the same. That's fine.
That's the same answer, yeah.
Yeah, Kyle Bradish. I still want to see Nevin up here too. He was up here for like a cup of coffee and then he went back down. Newstrom, another guy, left-handed bat.
Newstrom be a good one.
Obviously, I think that would work well at Camden Yards. So I'd like to see all those guys.
Ryan wants to see his girl. He wants to see
dude.
Janice.
Janice.
Janice was in Bowie.
Janice.
Janice actually started in Bowie tonight.
Giannis.
Well, you can
Yes.
stay in Bowie because Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no.
I can't wait to see that lady on the mound. I bet she's cute.
You guys actually said
She
it, so
looks like
it's
Marla
funny
Hooch.
that we're all on the same page. That it really would be Bradish or Newstrom that we would want to see. So we're really excited to see that. The one other question I had. So I was wondering.
Last question. All your questions are cut off after this one.
Last
What
question.
if-
It
They
is.
should have brought Janice up for that all ladies broadcast.
Oh, Jesus. Anyways, when it comes to Trey Mancini, on Saturday he wasn't playing first base again, and I feel like I haven't seen him play first base in a while, and so I looked. He's played first base once in the past 4 series. Prior to that, it was kind of, spot every other game type thing.
Yeah.
Are they DHing him too much?
No.
It became Mountcastle's spot, though.
And that's the thing. I think out of both of those guys, Mountcastle needs the most work. We
Yes.
know what we're going to get out of Mancini being at first base, and it's a average to a little bit above average first baseman. Mountcastle, he's obviously proven that he can't play outfield at the major league level. He's definitely not playing third base at the major league level. His spot outside of DH is going to be first base, and I think right now, 40 and 90 team, he needs to get as much
And
work in as he
he's
can.
looked well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys are on the same page because I was curious to see if you guys would go this route. I didn't think you would, but there's some people on social media that were saying, oh, is this a result of the health for him?
No.
Maybe he's saying like he needs to. We're not going to ever be.
This
privy
guy
to
was in the
those.
finals of the home run derby. Did you see the ridiculous
Right.
amount of effort that had to go into that? No.
Exactly. So I think he's fine. I think it's there. I think we're all on the same page. This is to give Mountcastle the work without taking his bat out of the lineup because he did have his Friday his single to right, his 600th career hit.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I hope Mancini's here for a long time in an Oriole uniform. All right, Scott, it's time for this week's Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. What did Jerry and the crew hook us up
So
with?
we've actually got 2 things this week. So the first one is from Flying Dog. This is one that I've had. Actually, at first had it at an Oriole game.
This is one of my favorites.
This is really good, especially when it's cold. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
This is
Appreciate
Flying
that.
Dog's
That should
numero.
be a given, but, appreciate that.
That's the inside joke no one's aware of yet.
Lukewarm beer.
It's numero uno. It's a Mexican lager. It has a Corona-esque taste to it, but you can tell the craftness to it if that sounds right.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. So the other one and they've got that at Liquor Stop. The other one this is one that Jerry hooked me up with last week, and I got it again.
I gotta show him this numero uno cannon though,
Yes.
bro, because yours is see-through as all
Is it?
hell.
There's the numero uno. Mexican
If you're a
lager.
Flying Dog fan, to me,
It's
it's
good.
one of their top
Good
beers.
So
they have.
before you go over the other thing that you have, I want you to grab that red cup over there.
The Red Cup.
We always talk about doing this,
Cup.
about getting your reactions to beer live, because sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad.
Have you guys had this yet?
No, none of them have had it. This is the only
Oh,
one.
this is gonna be fun.
Is this bad?
This is the only one.
I don't know, but we're zooming in on this.
Tell me what it is.
This is Smoogie Box.
Oh.
I don't
That's
even
all
like
we're
the
gonna
name.
know.
Smoogie
This
Box.
is from Imprint Beer Company, and this is the Smoogie Style Ale with mango, passion fruit, key lime pie, and cheesecake.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I
Terrible.
was drinking.
I mean, it sounds like
terrible
a
to
fat
me.
boy heaven.
I want you to
Sounds
try it live
It'd be
on
terrible to me.
air.
I
Tell
can't
us
help
what you
but think
think.
Not bad.
It's actually not bad.
Right?
It's not bad. It actually. So I fully expected this to be tart. The way when you set it up.
I know. I did it on purpose.
It's got a hint. It's got a hint of a tart, but it's more sweet. You can taste the kind of cakiness to it.
You can taste the cakiness. I also kind of said it had that.
I would
orange-
actually drink this. This is actually really good.
You want some more?
No, it's fine.
It's
I got
juicy. Yes. If you guys want a cup, you can have some. I haven't even drank out of this yet, but it is really good. So head up to Liquor Stop, and they'll be able to set you
They're
up
not
with
even
this
going to be
and
able to
the numero
pronounce
uno.
it. They'll be like, I want that thing that Scott had.
Well, if you tell them that
the
it's
cake
the one,
beer.
it's the one with passion fruit and cheesecake.
No, wait. Please go up to the liquor stop and say, I'd like the beer that Scott had on Birdland BS. Because I really want, and videotape the responses. I want to know how this goes.
What's it called? One more time for the fans.
It's called Smoogie Box.
Smoogie Box.
Or just give me their week's IPA.
All right. So what's the other thing that you got? This is the one that we all love.
Yeah, we had this a couple weeks ago. This is Austin East Cider's Watermelon Cider. So for you cider fans out there that
Clear
have
yet
only
again.
kind of had the palate for apple ciders, they have all different types of ciders. They've got pineapple ciders, they've got black cherry ciders, they've got all kinds of ciders. And honestly, I said this a couple weeks ago, I love watermelon, the fruit, but I am not usually a watermelon flavored fan. Like, I don't like things that are flavored watermelon. Watermelon Jolly Ranchers suck. Love Jolly Ranchers.
Real watermelons.
Watermelon Jolly Ranchers suck. This is good. This is really good. It's sweet. It's not overly watermelon. It's not super acidic like most ciders are. Some ciders I can't drink because I get really bad heartburn from it. This one doesn't do that. So it's Austin East Cider's watermelon cider. It's also greens and transparent, but if you can get it, this would be it. So make sure you get up to Liquor Stop. Tell Jerry and the crew Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. Hey, sweet cheeks. It's Shell and Tell time, Ryan. We haven't done this in a minute.
It's been quite some time.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Hey, I don't even have to pee.
Look how good that picture is. There it is. Look at that.
Oh, man. So, it's been a while, but this is an exciting week for us. It's an exciting week for Terp fans.
Maybe.
Football is getting ready to finally return down at Capital One.
Most likely will
I
be
think
in the stadium.
So, right? Maybe?
4 days?
Yeah.
4 days away, and I still can't feel super comfortable. It took literally till this last Saturday till I would discuss the game with anyone.
Right.
I was just waiting for that rug to be ripped out from under me. It was too many times last year. They're like, yeah, we're playing full season. Don't worry. No fans. We're going to do a full season. Never mind. Just Big Ten. Never mind. Cancel. Bring it on back. Who knows what happened? But
yeah.
So I'm just waiting. But it looks like we're good. It looks like we're going to be in that stadium. And I missed it.
Well, I can tell you one thing that's not going to be in that stadium that's a little disappointing.
A lot.
It's something real big, and I think something that not only were we excited as fans to experience, but if you're going to have a game like West Virginia to kick off the year, you're probably going to have a lot of up-and-coming recruits at this game.
Yep.
So this was going to be a big selling point, I think, towards some of those recruits, but the big board, the big new prize down at Capital One is not going to be ready.
Yeah, and honestly, I was told that it's not going to be ready and that it's going to be ready week 3 or 4, which I don't believe because I work for
right now. It's just polls.
I've heard this, but that's what I was going to say. So it was just holes, 2 giant pits in the ground 2 weeks ago. But yesterday there was a picture with 4 giant steel graders,
and it's paved.
So the next step is you bring a crane in, you put the thing there, and you bolt it up. That takes like a day, right? Like, what are we doing? How long? I mean, I guess this concrete has to cure for 6 weeks before you put weight bearing on it or something. There's got to be something that I don't understand. But as far as mounting they're not building the screen in place. They're just bolting it to the poles.
Yeah.
So maybe it will be done in the 3 weeks that they say. Maybe we will get to see it this year as long as they let us go to all the games. I kind of feel like you'll just stop letting us go to the game and then hang it up and make us look at on TV.
All right, well, let's not be completely negative about everything. As John brings up, there is some good news around this squad. The script is back. The white jerseys are back. I'm excited. I love these older kind of retro looking. We got excited about the red jerseys last year with the red script and all that red script helmets. It's back now as a full-time go for the uniforms.
Yeah, he says it wouldn't be College Park if construction ever finished. That's true.
That's true.
These uniforms, on the players, they look great.
Yeah.
On the fans, they're garbage. I don't know. The fan version of this uniform looks like a German hockey jersey. I don't understand, but on the players, it looks amazing.
He's making me feel real bad because I got it sitting at home right now waiting for me to wear on Saturday.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Dude, you were the first one that said German hockey jersey.
No, that was James. I didn't say it. I was the one who sent the picture. I ordered it right away.
I'm surprised. Usually Fred just waits and orders the authentics off their backs next week.
That's the first white one that hit the market, and I ordered it. I like it. It actually looks better in person than it does in the pictures.
Oh.
I'll give it to you.
I'm going to wear that one sitting on your chair then.
Yeah, you can wear that one. That's fine. All right, man. So they also released today the depth chart. There were a couple of guys on this roster that we were still kind of questioning who was going to be starting on the offensive line, specifically the center position, and what that meant for the right side of the line. We knew that the transfer coming in, Eric Harris was projected to be the starter at center,
but he hadn't been there yet.
Depth chart comes out, and again, it's just a depth chart. It doesn't mean anything.
Especially in college football.
Exactly.
They don't actually have to provide one.
But he was listed as center number 1.
Yes, he was listed as center number 1. Again, especially with the Terps, depth chart seems to mean nothing.
Right.
Because last year, Loxley put out a depth chart for week 1 and then just sent them the same one for every game, even though they had players out for COVID and players starting different things. So it doesn't mean a lot, but it is at least something. It means that they're hopeful that this is going to be it. It also lets our starting right guard move back to his position. So we have a very solid front 5. And a little bit of depth, not as much as we want. We would like a little bit more depth here on the line. But our starting 5 should be legit.
Any surprises to you that were either on the depth chart higher, not on the depth chart at all? Like for me, when I just kind of quickly glance at this thing, obviously my eyes go straight to the running back position because I always look at the skill positions, right? And I did not see Penny Boone listed in the depth chart.
Yeah, well, I think that running back is just one of those things we're so deep at. You are going to have, it's going to be Tayon Fleet Davis.
Right.
And then about 4 dudes have the same amount of carries and receptions. Right. So I don't know that any of the 2 or 3 matters. I think 2 through 5 is all the same thing.
Right.
One of the things that kind of stood out to me is actually on punt return. So punt return, they have the starter list is Terheeb Steele. With all the talent we have at wide receiver, we have
and speed
everywhere. We have a cornerback doing punt returns. Now, the last time that happened at Maryland, it was William Likely, and it was the only fun thing that happened the whole time William Likely was there was his punt and kick returns. I used to joke that we should punt on first down so we get Will Likely back on the field.
So I saw your comparison in the chat room earlier today. You mentioned Will Likely, and I get it from a positional standpoint, but they're built totally different. Built totally different.
Like a small, quick, and
still looks like Jimmy Smith being out there returning kicks.
I will say that if Still is equally capable to the other players, it is nice to have the defensive player out there because it takes away a lot of the fake punt type situations. Gives you your leader out there. You're not pulling people in and off the field for that. Kind of gives you your captain of the special teams. He's already going to be there on third down.
But
so
a guy
he's there organizing to start with.
But a guy like Marcus Fleming, who isn't projected to be one of the top 5 wide receivers on the squad, who was projected to be the fastest guy on the roster, he's not out there. That's kind of surprising to me. I feel like that would be a good role. Maybe it's a hands thing. Maybe he doesn't have the ability to field punts. Because, again, that takes a special set of skills. It's not just because you're a wide receiver, you're going to be able to field punts successfully.
No, I agree with you, but Locke seems to not worry about not a starter. Because when you look at this depth chart, both at kick return and punt return, you have Jarrett, Demas, Still, Jarrett, and Jones. These are all
I'm not going to argue against any
players.
of them. Yeah.
So he's not worried about the injury risk in that scenario versus any other play. Like you said, with J.K. Dobbins, injuries can happen on any play. Yes, punt return is a little bit more dangerous, and kick return is a little bit more dangerous. But with today's rules, how much more dangerous is it? You have all these fair catches. You had the halo back in the day. We have watered it down enough where you're not just getting decleated every time you catch the ball.
Right. Now, that's a good point. Well, listen, we talked about it at ends, how excited we are just to get back out there, how much we're anticipating this year, right? Just because I think that this, I know we say this fucking every year, but I really feel like this is a year we have a legit shot at going bowling. We have consistency at the quarterback position, like you said earlier. When's the last time we could say that? We are just loaded at the skill position, specifically wide receiver. Our secondary is so deep. Our linebackers are really good. Our defensive line is much improved and really deep as well. There's just a lot to be excited about with this squad.
You talked about Fleming being the fastest player. So I listened to Hear the Turtle, which is the Maryland sponsored podcast, like from the actual university.
Yep.
And they've had a bunch of players on. They always ask who's the fastest player, right?
Right.
Everybody says themselves pretty much when they're in the skills position. And then they are forced to say somebody else. And there's been a bunch of different answers. A couple of them have said our boy Ruben. And today,
as the fastest guy on the squad?
Ruben at 250. That's what I'm telling you. Linebacker at 250 pounds. And today was Mason Lunford, an offensive lineman, though, was on there. And he was asked who's the fastest of the squad. Of course, he didn't lie and say himself. He's the first honest person.
Right.
And he said that it was Ruben. And so that was the first time where I was like, oh, my.
You know what that means?
That if he doesn't get hurt, it's an NFL lock?
That means that we have an Odafe Owe on the fucking Terps. A 4'3", 4'4" linebacker. The fastest guy on the field is a linebacker. And he's a middle linebacker.
If it's true, we're going to find out. It's going to be fun.
Listen,
and what's what we saw last year? He didn't know where to go, but he knew how to get there.
Yeah.
He was quick.
Yeah, his sideline we talk about sideline to sideline speed because we're privy to that, obviously, with Ray Lewis and what he did for years here in Baltimore. He's got that kind of athleticism.
And they say this year he's put it together, so he's going to know where to go. And it could be a big season.
And you know what makes me even feel better about that linebacker core? We talked to Ahmed on the show about it numerous times. Brandon Jennings, the freshman the linebacker that's behind him, that even if Ruben's got to come out and take a breather, you got a guy, a 5-star linebacker like Brandon Jennings pushing him behind him that has been getting rave reviews too. So again, it's not like where we've been in the past, we've had these spotty good players where if one injury happens, we're fucked. We've actually got really good depth behind these pieces.
That's still the tackle.
It's
Please
exciting.
Stay healthy tackles.
That's true. That does not go to the offensive line.
Tackles need to stay in place.
That's true. That's true. So before we get into the actual West Virginia game in itself, because we talked about going bowling this year, what is your realistic expectations? Because listen, I've seen some shit out there on Twitter, some other newscasts and whatnot that have put their predictions out there. Most everybody still has the Terps at the bottom of the Big Ten or real close to the bottom of the Big Ten. I haven't seen one national prediction for us to be bowling at the end of the year. Are we too much a homer, or do you really think that this is the year?
I mean, we're going to find out quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, West Virginia is a good measuring stick. They're not the best team in the league. They're not the worst team in the league. They have some highly rated things they did last year, but they didn't play Oklahoma in the Big 12 last year. And the teams they beat were the bottom of the Big 12, and the teams they lost to were the top of the Big 12.
Right.
So you're going to find out pretty quickly. This is a good measuring stick. If we lose, it's going to be sketchy.
I'm putting your feet to the fire. I'm putting your feet to the fire. Right. What do you have on a season projection for this team?
I have a 7-6, and I'm not telling you how we got there.
A 7-6.
Yep.
Huh?
I'm not telling you if we went 6-6 and won the bowl, or if we went 7-5 and lost, but we went 7-6.
I thought we have 12 games. Oh, you're talking about the play-in weird game or whatever?
I'm saying with the bowl.
With the bowl.
I'm not going to tell you whether we went 6-6 and won the bowl.
I got you. All right.
7-5 and won the bowl.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, John Gugg says 6-6 with an 8-4 ceiling.
Oh, I like that.
I like that. 8-4 is a really high ceiling. I would love to see us hit that ceiling.
7-5 regular season is the ceiling, but we'll see. I think because we hit this. That's where my prediction is there. Because if we hit 7-5, we're going to get into a bowl we probably shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
And therefore we're going to lose it. And if we go 6-6, our 6-6 in the Big Ten loaded East is probably better than whoever the hell we're playing in that 6-6 bowl.
So I'm going to go the opposite of what you went. I'm going to go 6-7, and I'm not going to tell you how we get there. So we're going to be off by one game. I can't homer and just say, yeah, I'm right there with you. Then we're going to go 7-6. I'll go 6-7. I would love to see 8-4. 8-4 means everything that Loxley and crew is doing is working. No injuries. The offensive line was good, and everything kind of fell our way if 8-4 is what it finishes.
Fred's math doesn't work. He told us what we have to do. So in order to get to a bowl, we have to go 6-6. So you're saying we lose the bowl, we have 6-6.
Maybe. Yeah.
Mine's the unpredictable one.
John Carr, 3 wins. So you're right there with a lot of the national pundits. And listen, I'm not going to argue against it because when you look at the schedule, it is tough to find 6 or 7 like confident wins. You know, we've had some schedules in the past where we're like, oh yeah, that's a confident win. That's a confident win.
We did this last year.
Right. A lot of things got to go right for this team to get to 6 and 7 wins. I just think that this team has that kind of ability. And I think this defense is severely underrated on a national level because, again, they're going to have a pass rush presence that they haven't had in years past, and that secondary is going to be very, very locked down. So teams are not going to be able to throw against us, run the ball against us, not like they have in the past. That defensive front's going to get way more of a push than they've ever had. They've got so much more size on that defensive line. Overall, that defensive line is just, or that defensive unit is much better than it has been.
And they focused on what their biggest issue was last year. They were getting a lot of points scored on them last year. Right. So what do? They went and kind of shored that up. The thing that I think that, in my opinion, needs to be tempered a little bit, and why I think 4 wins, maybe pushing 5, is where they'll wind up.
Go back to the split screen, Ryan. It's just you and I now. I'm
we
just joking.
We get to 4 wins last year in a 8-game season if we would have got to play Michigan State.
Finish your reasoning. Good. I'm just joking.
We've seen before where they look good on paper. And right now, that's where they're at. We haven't seen them go. And I think Ryan has a great point. This first game is going to tell you all you need to know about this team.
Yes and no.
It'll tell you whether we're going to get 3 wins. If we lose this, we're getting 3 wins. We win, we are not getting 3 wins. We're getting way more than that.
I agree with it, and I don't agree with it, because if that was the truth, we absolutely slaughtered Howard in our first game and slaughtered Syracuse in our second game last year. So we would have thought that, because right after those 2 games, Ryan and I was fucking, we're going 7 or 8 wins, like out of it. And then the whole shipped, like turned. So the first and second game really can't tell you everything. It'll be a good measuring stick.
That team was also the one that had took Ohio State to double overtime and almost went bowling the year before. Like they were better than the end result. Our offensive line fell apart.
Yeah.
We're this year too. If we lose offensive tackles, they could be right.
Yeah.
Like even if we lose 1 offensive tackle, we could win 3 games. But if our offensive line stays true, we'll be all right.
Go ahead, James.
You lose to the Rutgers too.
Rutgers is a much improved football team from where they were years past. Rutgers is a much better football team, but I still think we're not losing to Rutgers. No way we're losing to Rutgers. All right, so let's get into this West Virginia game a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what West Virginia brings to the table. As their offense returns 8 starters from last year's team. Jarrett Doge, I think, is back and has weapons. Dogecoin.
We're hoping it's the Dogecoin price now and not in March.
He's a little bit of a wild card. From what I've heard about this guy, is sometimes he can take too many risks during the game, which bodes well for our secondary. So it really is going to depend on how honed in he can stay, how collected he can stay. If Maryland, here's the thing, if Maryland jumps out early and gets a 1 or 2 score lead early, that's a wrap. I think the Ravens, or not the Ravens, I think the Terps win the game handedly, because then it sends Doge into a panic mode and our secondary is just going to feast.
Look like a Maryland Northwestern game from last year.
I like it.
So I agree with you. We have to make him beat us, because that's your option. To put him against Nick Cross, Still, Hazel, that are going to be ball-hawking cornerbacks for us, because their best of returning is Letty Brown, their running back. He came back, he's electric back, averaging 120 all-purpose yards. He's that J.K. Dobbins type, can receive out of the backfield. I think he had 30 receptions last year in that shortened season.
First team All Big 12 last year.
All 12. So you don't want him to beat you. So you want to stack that box, and you want to let your stars play out there on the defensive backs. Force this quarterback to beat us, and we'll be all right.
Right. They're another team very similar to us. Has a decent offensive line, but their depth is questionable. So if you start to see flies dropping on the offensive line, all that's going to do is bode well again for Maryland. They're a very young group, so they're an up-and-coming group. Their strength is really going to be their pass defense versus our loaded wide receiver core. Yep. How does that matchup kind of work? I'll put money all day on the Terps, just with how much talent that we have, not just in our starting 3, not just Rock, not just Demas, not just Jason. They've got so many options. Brian Cobb, he's another one I think is in line for a big year. They're loaded at wide receiver.
So this is one of those years with our loaded wide receivers where I'd like to see Locks go to a 4 or 5 wide set, but this is not the game for it, because WVU plays a 3-3-5. So this is the game that you need to show off these new tight ends that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
This is a game where you put those big bodies on those little cornerbacks and go off.
Yeah. Chigakonkwo coming back from injury. I know you and I are excited what we've seen in practice and what we saw in the spring game. He looks good, and it looks like him and Talia have a good relationship already. You got baby Gronk back there, right? He's going to be a freshman, still trying to get his feet wet and whatnot. But
let's hope he plays a lot, because if he does, we're looking all right.
Right. That's true, too. That is true. I like our tight end group, too. So, yeah, I'd be all for that. What do you think this game ends up? Do you think the Terps have it in them to win it? Is this one of the 7 games that you have as the Terps winning?
Yeah, I got us winning. I think 28-17. I got us winning this pretty good.
28-17. Okay, so the score is a little off from where I have the Terps winning this, but I have it in a closer game. I've got it in the 30-27 range. I think the Terps win it on an Anthony Pecorella field goal to win it.
All right, Ant. Let's go.
All right, Scott, it's time for this week's rundown. And where do you want to start? Who do you want to go first?
Let me unmute myself here. Let's start with, we'll go ahead and start with you. Yours is a longer story, and it has a personal touch for you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier in the show, I got my first exposure, first chance to go to a PGA event live.
Careful saying exposure nowadays.
Oh, that's true, too. I ended up going down to the BMW tournament down at Caves Valley on Friday. It was a lot of fun. It was hot as hell, but it was a really cool experience. And I know you watch it on TV. For those that do watch golf, you see the fans and how close they get to the to the actual action. I just didn't know like if that meant like you had to spend more money to get that close or anything. Literally, I paid a general admission ticket, $75, and I was right up on the tee box in camera view, everything, next to Bryson DeChambeau. Once I got up there and I saw him, I fell in love and I followed him for the next 9 holes of the course. There's just something about DeChambeau and what he brings to the game of golf that is just super entertaining. Like, Tiger Woods obviously was transcending because of multiple reasons. He had the whole racial factor and all that stuff. But everything that Bryson brings to the table as far as just, he's kind of douchey. I get that. And some of the stuff that he whines about, I get that. I understand why some people don't like him. But Ryan, for instance, right? He's not a big baseball fan, but he loves like home run derbies. He loves the exciting things about baseball. What Bryson brings, he brings excitement to golf, right? He's that long drive guy. And I think this video here, which was on the first hole, is a good example of what I'm talking about, right? You got fans there right behind him on the first hole. He pulls out iron and they boo, and he's laughing about it because they all want to see him hit driver, right? And he's just laughing, having a good time. What's he do? Pulls out the driver and the fucking crowd goes great.
And he shows it to him. He played to him.
Right. He played to the crowd, man. It's just, I love that about it. Like, I've never been one that was like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to go to a golf event. Like,
way to go, Brucey.
It was a lot of fun. And then obviously for the tournament to play out the way it did, he had a 6-foot putt miss to shoot a 59 on Saturday was unreal. Yeah. They go to what, 6 playoff holes in Cantlay. I mean, just sticking with this guy.
Himself.
Bryson had many opportunities to win this thing. He had a winning putt 3 different times on the playoff holes and missed all 3 of them.
Credit to him, too, because in one of those playoff holes, he recovered it after a shot in the water.
Yeah, exactly. So Patrick Cantlay wins the tournament 27 under par, which is absolutely absurd. And this is, listen, like I said, I walked this entire course, which is extremely hilly, mind you. It's a lot of fucking walking. But I had never been to Caves Valley before. And Caves Valley, for those who don't know, it's a member-only golf course, like $100,000 entry to even get into the club. The course is beautiful. TV did not do it justice. And for me, being a very, very below average golfer, I look at that course and I'm like, I would fucking suck at this course. And these guys, I mean, looked like they could have played this course in their sleep. The drives that they had, DeChambeau was hitting them 340, 350 yards, no problem. Driving the green almost on par 4s.
24 holes, and on the 24th hole, he almost drove the green again.
Exactly. It was unbelievable. It's just a really, really cool time.
Yeah, that's awesome, and for it to be local too, I think it's pretty cool. So, mine is going up 95 a little bit to New York. The controversy that's happening with the Mets and Javi Baez in reference to here recently, they have started putting thumbs down anytime something happens, right? That's good for them. And so when asked about it, several of the players, like Kevin Pillar, was like, oh, it's just, we're just having fun, joking around, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Well, Javi Baez went all in. So in his interview, he said the celebration is a message to the fans that have booed him and others. He said, in my case, the fans, got to be better. Baez said, it's just how I feel. I love the fans. I like playing for the fans, but we can't have our fans against us. So I can get it a little bit, the player, you don't want it, but guess what? If you're not performing, you're not doing well, your fans are booing. So
the fans pay the money to cheer and boo. They have every right to boo this guy if he sucks.
Yeah.
This whole fucking soft-ass country that we live in is ridiculous.
Millions of dollars while these people take their paychecks to go to these fucking games.
Exactly.
And
They can do what they want when you guys perennially underachieve and they just throw money at the club, but it doesn't matter. They're back to 500 every goddamn year.
And the Mets president Sandy Alderson, actually said fans at Citi Field have every right to express their own disappointment. Booing is every fan's right. The Mets will not tolerate any player gesture that is unprofessional in its meaning or directed in a negative way towards our fans. And he went on to kind of go a little bit more and say, like, they're not going to be allowed to do it. They're going to be on top of them. The fans have a right because they're paying. They're the ones that are there. Some of it, to your point, I think is a little bit of club talk. Time's going to tell because this all only came out in the past 2 days.
We'll talk more about this in the after hours. I don't want to go off too much of a tangent. Ryan, what do you got this week for your rundown topic? I don't even know because it's like a mystery.
I went with your suggested topic. You're right. It's right down my alley. You guys have heard it. Like, there's different levels of high school football. You got Falston High School. Then you got like DeMatha Catholic. Then you got like the IMGs and the St. Francis. Well, there's this whole new level.
Next level.
Next level.
Unlimited.
Next level, you never heard of it.
Yeah, so good that you got to go to YouTube to find out where their imaginary campus is and how imaginarily awesome it is. Bishop Sycamore was just playing on ESPN against IMG Academy.
I don't know if you define that as playing on
First of all, you knew it was bullshit from the get. Number one, this is one of those pay-for-play shits like you see in college basketball where you're just buying a win. They already knew on paper this was it. You got IMG Academy with 300 dudes, most of them 4 and 5 stars, playing against a team with 30 people on it. I don't even know if it was that, actually. I think it was like 18. They were playing both ways, all the way across the board. This all is made up. They're all fake. They're not high schoolers. There is no high school.
They're like junior college
there's
kids.
JUCO people, there's 12-year-olds, there's whoever they can find, so they could just charge schools to play them, pocket this money, scam it out, and this hasn't even happened yet. I'm just going to put it out here, because they pissed off the wrong people who found out everything that's ever happened.
Oh, this tweet thread that was went on forever.
I will bet you more comes, because if you're willing to go to this level to scam people to get money and you're doing a fake high school to play fake football games for real money, guess what else they're doing? They're going to have a fake charter school and there'll be fake federal government money that they took from people and they're all going to jail.
Yeah. Well,
so enjoy your football games while they last.
To John's point, the other portion of this, the coach has an active arrest warrant out. Yeah. And so the
shocker.
Right.
Once a criminal, always a criminal. You didn't even do a good job. Bro, if you're going to fake a team, fucking make it look like a team.
Did you see the ESPN clip where the teams ran out of the tunnel? It literally looked like the longest yard, like the fucking prison guys running out of the tunnel.
There was like a Walmart security guard in there. There was like Wyatt rolling out of the tunnel.
It was ridiculous, man.
Well, their lead trainer was a mother in shorts.
She's just the lady that's with the con artist.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had guys my age on that roster. Yeah. Drew, what did you get for this week's rundown?
The NFL finds every year decides to find some kind of little rule to throw in there to piss fans off.
No fun league.
So this year it decided to up the taunting rule. So the way they classified it is it's flagrant acts that deride, mock, bait, and embarrass their opponents.
Here we go again.
Snowflaking, basically. So so that includes you can't spike the ball. So I hope Gronk don't score 2 touchdowns in a game.
All these Karens writing letters to the NFL.
It's 100% what it is.
So you can't do that. There's no pointing the ball or your finger and being verbally taunting. You can't stand there and step over your opponent. We saw in Ravens game you can't cross your arms apparently.
So wait. Just to be clear, you can't celebrate at all.
Got to go to the sidelines. And
so what I don't
understand,
what I don't kind of like it's you just can't. The way it sounds, well, the whole
can't be directed at a player.
It can't be directed at a player. So I don't even really know if you can
spiking the ball and spinning the ball directed at a player.
If you're spiking it at the player towards the player, yes. If you're going to do it, just do it the other way is what the league is saying. The whole crossing your arms thing, totally cool if you're crossing your arms to your team and you show it off to your team. But the minute you direct it towards a player, that's where the foul is.
So if a player walks in front of you, you're fucked.
Probably. Depending on who the ref is.
And that's the asinine part of it all, because you're still that became the growing thing that I kind of dislike anyway, where you have a pickoff and it could be the middle of the game and not decide anything, and 30 guys go running down to that camera to go take a picture.
Worst shit.
It's the worst shit. Apparently, that's not taunting. I mean, I don't. That is
not directed towards the player.
Because it's not directed at a player. So I guess it's basically covered if you're doing the shit towards another player. So the worst part of it all to me is fine, you do that crap, and sometimes it is what it is. But if a player does it 2 times in a game, they're subject to being ejected, and suspended / and or fined. And what the worst part of it all is too is it's a ref it's under ref discretion. So
we're not going to read that out loud.
Oh no, 100% I will. Drew, John says Goodell has less balls than Caitlyn Jenner. I'm sorry, that's not appropriate, but it's fucking hysterical.
It's good. Keep it rolling.
Oh man.
No, but the worst part
Good
of it
on
all
you,
is
John.
it's like it's ref discretion too. So how many times refs can't even get replays right half the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if you want to put any blame, it's owners. It's fuddy-duddy billionaire owners that want to have as much control as they can, but they influence the competition committee, and that's kind of why we have this rule.
I forget who it was. Somebody from the Giants, I believe.
John Mara.
Mara was the one
that's,
bitching.
like I said, that's billionaire fuddy-duddy guys that have their legacies, and they've owned this club through their family for 100 years.
Well, stop having teams that you can't get anywhere in the playoffs. You can't do anything. Then you can talk.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That should be when you're proposing rules. It should be stuff like that. It should be.
I bet you make
we're
the
going to
playoffs
consider
this
your
year.
we're going to consider your record for this rule you're proposing. If you haven't
Right.
been winning, you don't get a say.
Hey, we have breaking news. Bishop Sycamore just signed, had
Christ.
4 of their players signed with Big Blue.
They also signed Cam Newton earlier today.
Yeah.
James, what do you
Former
got?
catchers.
James, what do you got this week?
Mine is just breaking news. While in this show tonight is they just Adam Schefter just announced that Urban Myers said that his decision on cutting people was who are vaccinated, who not came into play on his decision.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
so
he's the
that's
first
gonna
coach
be
publicly
the
to say that.
Boldly say
Then.
that, yeah.
To come
That's
out and say
ballsy
that.
for a first-year coach to
Yeah.
take that kind of a stance,
So-
especially in this
What's he
day
care?
and
He'll have a
age.
fake heart condition and leave whenever anything goes wrong.
I was going to go there next.
Exactly.
But that's kind of ballsy just to drop the mic today.
Yeah. You know what? I wonder what happens with this. I wonder what happens from the league response. Like, what does the league say to that?
I was to say,
and then what do other teams do?
I was to say, what are the potential legal ramifications?
Well, I remember when Sean McDermott, Bills head coach, and this was May or June, was answering a question about it, and he said that was his decision make. Like that was it could factor in his decision making in the summer, and he was told no about it. Like, you can't say that. Like, you got to come out and say a statement like, well, I didn't mean it like this. You know how that you backtrack.
It's a tiebreaker. He's not saying he's cutting everyone that's unvaccinated.
No, but it's
a tiebreaker.
So what?
I wonder if this was an actual public statement or this was something like sources said
No, it
that
was
he
public.
made.
Adam
He made a
Schefter,
public statement saying that.
And that's the problem. Is that's what I was kind of getting at with legal ramifications. If you're saying that you chose not to go with me simply because of my beliefs.
Discrimination.
That is the definition of discrimination.
Right.
So it's a fine line to be toting. I'd be real curious to see what comes out of this.
And
Yeah, 'cause
employers can fire anyone they want. That's what's happening all the way across the country.
Like
They're eliminating you because you're refusing to take the vaccine.
Basically,
Yeah.
The federal government's doing it.
If someone was on the bubble and he knew that they weren't vaccinated, most likely he wasn't going to.
Right.
Because he wondered if he's going to take a risk on his team, basically. And that's like one of the reasons why Cam Newton got released.
The NFL brought this on themselves when they started talking about forfeitures.
That's
Bill
the rumor.
Belichick said won't come out and say it, but
That's the rumor.
What he's saying is, since he's not vaccinated, if he's around, Jones?
Yeah, Mac Jones.
And
He could lose
he
both.
gets COVID, but he was in the area, then you can't play him. It's sort of like what happens in Denver. So he doesn't want to take the risk
Right. I
of
get
having
it.
that situation.
I get it.
Get it. 30 seconds each.
Plus, fuck James'
It's
question.
time
Yeah.
for the 2
Look like you got
minute
fucked.
warning.
All right, Scott, it's time for the 2-minute warning. I'll let you go first this week.
All right. I think Drew's asking the first question, so.
All right, Drew, take it away.
So every year you have a handful of teams, 2, 3, 4 teams that make the playoffs in the NFL and don't make it the following year. So for you, which teams from last year's NFL playoffs do you not see returning this playoffs?
As much as people think that it might happen, I don't think Indy's returning to the playoffs. Washington, I don't think. I think there's too many problems there.
Yeah.
I don't think they can repeat. I think it was a fluke last year. Chicago's another one that I don't think is there.
Justin Fields, baby.
Yeah, whatever. We'll get into that next question, I'm sure. And then I think the other one that's a question mark is I don't know that the Rams can sneak in again this year.
All right, so for me, I'm going to say Washington football team. Listen, I like them better with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I think the Cowboys are going to end up winning that division this year. I do not think 3 teams from the AFC North make it, so I do not think the Pittsburgh Steelers will make it this year. The Colts are borderline because they've had some injuries on the offensive line, and Carson Wentz is obviously a big wild card there. I agree the Bears will be a fringe team, so those would be my 4 teams that I think are on the cusp of potentially not making it this year.
Okay.
All right, and the next question is, who do you think will have a bigger year at QB as a rookie? Fields, Wilson, or Lawrence, or Jones?
Bigger year. I think that there's some decent weapons in Jacksonville. I think that they can do some stuff. I think Trevor Lawrence he's one of the first true firsts that we've seen in a while. So I think of those, I think Trevor Lawrence is the one that's going to have the biggest year of all of them.
If we're talking rookie year, just their rookie year, I'm actually going to surprise you, and I think Zach Wilson's going to have the bigger year. What I've seen out of him in preseason so far, he looks good. I know it's the Jets. It's a cursed franchise, and shit always goes wrong.
Yeah.
But I think Zach Wilson's actually going to outperform these guys. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have the better career than Zach Wilson. And don't forget Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields, when he gets the opportunity, is going to be a damn good quarterback and carry Drew's fantasy football team for a very, very long time.
Him and Mahomes. Remember that.
Oh, man.
I think Ty Johnson's going to look all right with them New York Jets.
Ty Johnson, yeah, they're going to have a hell of a running back rotation there. They're going to have a 3-headed monster, none of which are going to be great, but I think all 3 of them be good. Ty Johnson will fit into that mold really well. Scott, sign us off, man. Good show.
All right. We appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. As usual, you can check us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. While you're there, you can check out all of our episodes. You can check out the Shell and Tell podcast. I think you guys got a new one that just came out.
No, we're recording tomorrow night.
I put another one out tomorrow night. Okay.
Yeah, we had one last week, though.
Make sure you go check that out. Check out the latest episodes. Also, check out your gear. Get yourself some Birdland BS gear as well. Make sure you can check us out on all of our social media pages. At Birdland BS is how you find us.
Go to @BirdlandBS on Twitter and click the little link in our bio. It'll take you to literally everything of ours. Website, social media networks, everything that you want, Birdland BS, it's all there for you.
It's a one-stop shop for sure. Make sure you follow us when we do live shows, things like that. You can get involved and be able to show up as well, especially when you're local. We appreciate everybody turning out when we do that. So stay tuned for hopefully the Bowie situation, whether it's this year or next year.
That's going to happen at some point.
It's going to happen. Make sure you also follow us when you're on YouTube. Make sure you go to YouTube and you give us that subscribe. Hit that little bell that'll let you know when we're going live or when we're doing certain things. So make sure you check that out. For those of you that have asked, there's a scrolling bar at the bottom for any donations that you would have asked about. Where do you donate at? That's how you do it. So check that out throughout the show. Make sure you always check us out on Birdland Sports and on Big Play as well. We're part of both of those networks, and we appreciate the partnership with them. We appreciate you guys. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. For Fred, Ryan, James, Drew, and myself, we'll see you guys next week.
See you. It's time for the after party.
Last call for alcohol. We got a first question. John, how did you find us? That would be a great
welcome
question.
to
You've
the
been
party.
chiming.
I've never seen your name before. I don't know if you changed your name or whatever, man, but you've had some
Well, we know
off
he's
the
not
chart
B. More
comments
Tuber.
tonight. We appreciate you. He's not B. More Tuber. There's only one and only B. More Tuber.
I haven't seen him in a while or heard from him.
He's been a little quiet.
I wonder why.
Maybe he's on vacation.
He could be.
It's the end of the summer.
So John Googs, while we're waiting for that response from him, if he's still out there, had a question.
Yeah.
Do the rebuilding Nats next year or the always rebuilding Orioles have more wins?
Next year, I'm still going to go with the Nats.
Still Nats.
I still think the Nats will have a better record. Now, the disparity
It'll be
between
closer,
the
yeah.
tubes, well, yeah, it won't be as
closer.
much.
Let
It'll
me
be
rephrase
closer,
that.
but I still give the Nats the edge right now.
He's through
First
shell and tell.
conversion.
Through Shell and Sell. I love it. Appreciate the support, Sean, for real. Definitely
Yeah.
do.
Appreciate
Come
it,
back.
man.
Make sure you come back every week.
Hey,
So,
if you're going to the games, make sure to hit us up. We'll be in lot 9B behind
I can go.
Xfinity Center.
Hey,
It'll
by the
just be
way,
me, but I can
and
go.
Scott's going.
this guy's
Yeah.
slick as shit. We were at the balloon festival, and the one thing that we got to do with
you
the
guys
kids with
had
the
a
balloon-
mandate at a balloon
we had
festival?
a family
Oh,
thing,
okay, got
okay?
it.
So hey, no, you can walk
Balloon
into this.
festival.
You can walk
Mandate
into
and
this.
they couldn't blow up
You
balloons.
can walk
huh?
into this
The
behind a
latex
balloon
was
on the
not filled
ground.
with hot air.
This guy must have just been wearing a Terps hat. Right. Yeah, guy was.
Oh, yeah.
His hand before the guy
Doesn't
even knew what
surprise me
happened.
one bit. Doesn't surprise. Was he dropping them in random, like, Jeep
I
tops?
didn't check that part. You know?
Yeah, I think I
Possibly.
handed out 3 or 4 that day.
Yeah. All right. So you wanted before we do the answer to the internet piece. You wanted to talk about the Baez situation. You said you wanted to chime in on
Yeah,
this.
no, I thought that this conversation could go on for a while because we talk about it. It was a bunch of topics in the rundown today that just so happened to kind of hit on the same aspect about just this soft culture that we have as a society right now. And this is one of them. Like, to Drew's point, I think you said it very elegantly. Like, these guys use their hard-earned paychecks, us as fans, to go out there and support these teams. And we as fans have the right to cheer and boo. If they were doing things like racial remarks, like what was happening to Adam Jones, that's uncalled
Yes.
for. If they're throwing things like what happened to
Verdugo.
Hyung Soon Kim or whatever, remember the beer can out in Toronto?
Or all those dudes
Toronto.
that throw dildos in Buffalo.
Hey, they don't hit anybody. They just throw them at the corner of the end zone and get caught on TV every night.
I miss that.
That
But-
happens every year.
Yeah, it happens like once or two.
shit like that, there's no call for that. But for a player to get in his feelings about being booed in fucking New York, mind you,
Yeah, what did you think was that?
what did you think was gonna happen?
Like, dude,
Not like you didn't get it in Chicago either, by the way.
Right, yeah, but New York is like next
It's its
level.
own spectrum.
I
I
think
get
it's
it.
a little different with Chicago because they're still that lovable losers, even though like once post World Series win, they kind of like weren't the lovable losers anymore. Like it's still that kind of mentality. It's still different in
Yeah.
New York. But the fact of the matter is, dude, like you got traded from the Cubs were going down, so they cleared ship. You got traded to a contender at the time, and you must be doing something wrong because you're not performing.
Yeah.
So if you guys were in the race, then you'd be performing and no one would be booing you.
Right. I 100%
He's great comments. Thomas Morgan says, how do those Bills fans smuggle the dildos into
Thomas,
the
you don't
stadium?
want the answer to that question, buddy.
I got it.
You don't want to
Man,
know.
call Buffalo Chuck and see if we know there's been a
Website
sniff test.
for you.
Oh, man. Who was it that had the freshman question? Was it John?
That's John Googs. So he wants to know what freshman. So I don't know who all has an opinion, but I know at least 2 of us do.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead first. I think for me, the one that I'm most excited about is the one that's got the most tie to near and dear to me is Rowan Henby, the running back freshman. He's got the local ties. I grew up in Middle River. He was a Middle River Renegade, which that's where I played football. So I have a tie to that.
And then he plays high school right down the street. John Carroll.
John Carroll, right. So I've got a special bond with that, but I think the excitement behind a kid, like I said earlier, like Brandon Jennings, is super exciting at the linebacker position. But Ryan, who's yours?
I think mine's in that linebacker DM position, the #1 rated player in all of Maryland. I was excited when Nick Cross came in with that rating.
Yeah.
So Damian Robinson, Chop Youngbull, today's player for 4 days away from kickoff.
So to that point, talking about Chop.
Yeah.
I did not see his name in the depth chart.
That's a coaching move.
Okay.
It happens every year. You saw how much did we talk about how Nick Cross was the best player on that defense the year he came in, and we didn't see him the first 3 games, and then you played him a couple plays here and there. That's to teach these kids humble, you
Right.
know, because these kids have been the best player on their team since they were 4 years old. They even if you're lying to them, you got to try to put them in this like you're one of a whole, you're earning your position, the work ethic side of things, and not have them rest on their laurels. I'm the most talented thing in the world, so you have to play me.
Right.
So I think that's just a coaching move. There were no defensive linemen, freshmen listed in the 2 deep.
Right.
There was, I think one made the 3 deep one somewhere, like or. So
right.
that's just a coaching move.
John says he heard Chop might be hurt.
I have not heard that. We talked to Ahmed about Chop not too long ago, and unless something recently happened or recently developed, I have not heard that. I know somebody else earlier had asked, it might have even been John, he might asked about Terrence Lewis, a name that kind of has been avoided and nobody's heard much about him.
That's the 5-star. So actually, Fred misspoke earlier.
Called 4-star. I said it and then I was like, fuck it, I'm just roll with it.
Yeah, Lewis is the 4-star, still great, looks awesome. Ahmed's been very high on him, so he's playing like a 5-star. Terrence Lewis is the 5-star that we won't see this year. He came in with a torn ACL he didn't know about, which is insane.
And then he just kind of hung out with it for a while, didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, so I mean, you can go. Please subscribe to Inside the Black and Gold with Ahmed Ghaffir. He gives you some really good information. Terrence Lewis apparently also took all the Maryland stuff off his page and wasn't there for the team photo and all this other scary shit.
Right.
But literally everyone connected with the team was just like, he's just a different dude. Like he's just. I mean, we saw that with Lejean, with the quarterback, Lance Lejean. Mm-hmm. If you paid attention to that man's Twitter, he quit the Terps 65 times. Yeah. Like every day he had something negative, looked like he was leaving town. Looked like, of course, eventually it happened, but he got put out by higher talent. He didn't just bail out because he was sad. Right. Like, I don't see this thing. Like, we already know he's not going to play this year, so I wouldn't sweat this till at least next fall. Summer starts. If he's going to leave, he's going to leave early because he's going to try to get a scholarship. So.
Staying with the Terps, though, make sure you tune into the next episode of Shell and Tell, which we're recording tomorrow, like Ryan said. We did have a couple of decommits over the last couple of days, all from the same state. So there's a tie to that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in depth tomorrow when we record. So we'll make sure we cover that.
It doesn't sound like Maryland's really sad about any of it.
No, it doesn't. So
it doesn't sound like they were going to academically make the team.
Right, exactly. So we'll talk a little bit about that. John also, man, you had a ton of good questions. He's talking NFL when we were talking about who was going to make the playoffs and who wasn't. He's saying Rams will be even better with Stafford. I have to agree with this. I think Matt Stafford is a diamond that has been in the deep rough for a long time out in Detroit. I think he's a much better quarterback than even just his statistics. So, I mean, the 48 to 5,000 yard mark is pretty much a given every year with this guy. You put him in an offensive system with a Sean McVay, the kind of wide receiver core that he has around him, an offensive line that can actually protect him. And hey, guess what? The Rams have a really fucking good defense, and they've got the best player in the world in Aaron Donald on their defense, which Matt Stafford has never had in his career, even close to that level of a defense. Matt Stafford, and I think that Rams team is going to do big things this year in the NFC. I think they're my surprise team to be in the NFC Championship this year, right up there with Tampa Bay.
Did they get some more security on the offensive line? Because that was part of Goff's problem last year is he was scrambling like crazy.
Yeah,
but Goff sucks.
Stafford's been doing it his entire career. He's made a career out of it. He knows how to do that. Yeah. I don't think that's going to be a problem. He's going to have a better offensive line in front of him than he's had in a long time.
Detroit had Sanu.
What's that?
Detroit had Sanu.
Sue.
And
he was a fucking renegade.
He was a dick. He was one player. He was one player that was good for a couple of years, but not on the level of Aaron Donald.
I understand
Aaron Donald
he looked like he had a shit show in Detroit.
He did. He had a shit show of a defense. He had one player. He had one player. The Rams defense as a whole, they've got a good secondary. They've got a good defensive line. They've got good edge rushers. They're a good, solid defense. They're a top 5 defense in the league. 100% their top 5 defense. So I just think that team's going to do bigger things than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
Plus, they got Jake Funk. So they're
totally Jake Funk made the 53-man. That's right. If you didn't hear that, John, Jake Funk officially did make the 53-man.
Number 233 draft pick in the 7th round.
That's right. Almost Mr. Irrelevant.
You were talking about in your rundown about the golf, but I read an article because I find like all these, because I'm in the restaurant business, how they, like the GM handled these players. So they stayed downtown at the Sagamore Hotel or whatever they call it, and every player got loaner BMWs to drive there.
Oh yeah.
And then they would stay at the hotel, and then they asked that they have valet parking. They would park their cars in a certain area so they wouldn't get damaged. But yeah, so that was pretty cool to find out what all goes through the back door of the golf tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw him. So on the first tee box, right behind the tee box of where I was literally standing. If you watched
behind
the
BMW,
yeah, I was standing behind the blue convertible BMW they had on the first tee box. I was literally standing right behind that. Right behind me was the parking lot that they were escorting the players into, and they were, like you said, they were all being driven in these brand new BMWs, and that's where they were parking and getting their stuff out, and then they were being escorted up. Man, I'm telling you,
I knew BMW of Towson looked a little light.
Even if you're not a golf fan, I think if you're a sports fan, you could have appreciated and had a good time being out there. Even now, I will say this, like I said, it was a very hilly course. There was a lot of walking. My legs were killing me. It was hot. All that was miserable. But if you're a fan that doesn't want to follow one guy, like I followed DeChambeau for 9 holes, and I followed Rory for about 4 or 5 holes. I followed old lefty for a couple of holes, Phil Mickelson, and then I left. You can literally just find yourself a hole, like Ryan said, you can watch the players walk by you. You don't have to walk with these players. So you can park yourself at a hole.
I think my quote was, if you walk with the parade, you're never going to see another show. If you walk in the opposite direction, you're going to see a lot more shows.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really cool event.
Well, and the crowd that was there too, you showed the video, but the other side of that is the fact that they were saying that this is one of the largest crowds at a PGA Tour event in years, and they were just so into it and so into the players. Outside of COVID, there were a few of the analysts that were kind of saying like the following behind DeChambeau, and especially on Sunday, the DeChambeau-Cantley pairing, and that wound up being the pairing that winds up going to the 6-hole playoff. They said that was Tiger-esque. These are people that have been around for a long time. So to say that it was Tiger-esque, again, you're not saying his game is compared to Tiger. There was a completely different. But the approach from the fans, this is the first time in 60 years there's been a PGA event.
I was worried about it because I was like, again, I went there on Friday, which was the second day of the tournament. I was worried about how the crowd was going to show out. We can be sometimes in Baltimore. We don't usually mind our P's and Q's, and you put us out there on a golf course to public use, $75 a ticket. Pretty much anybody can get in there. I was worried about how that would look and how that would come across on TV. There were a couple of prick fans, I think, that were getting on DeChambeau's name, or, calling him names or whatever.
Hey,
Brucey and all that dumb shit. Which now they're trying to come out with a rule that won't allow fans to call him by another name.
God,
Or players to call each other by another name.
I will get kicked out. Next time I will pay $75 just to get kicked out because his name Brucey. That is ridiculous. I'll be there for 5 minutes and say, Brucey, what's up? And be thrown out. I don't care. It's a bullshit-ass rule.
It is.
He got in the fans' face after he lost it, walking up the tunnel.
I heard.
Calling him Brucey.
I heard.
Acting like a petulant child. Fight, dude, just move on.
Yeah.
There's
thicker skin. He is a Mets fan. He's thumbed down Mets fan.
There's a lot of things. I understand why fans don't like Bryson, but man, it's just, again, he brings the entertainment value for me. Golf.
He does. You need a heel. I mean, it's basically professional wrestling at this point.
So Craig Zero says, Fred, thoughts on the cut of Cam Newton? So it was a surprise. I think it was a surprise to most everybody out there because who's their backup at this point? Is it
Brian Hoyer?
Hoyer, who's been like a 50. You talk about backups that have been around for a long time. You talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick being a Hall of Fame backup. Hoyer has been around, and he's been with the Patriots, I want to say, a half a dozen times at this point. He's left and gone to multiple teams. It was a surprise. I don't know where the right fit is for Cam Newton moving forward. We talked about Houston earlier just because right now they've got Tyrod Taylor down there. And I do believe Cam Newton is an upgrade over Tyrod Taylor. There's not many starting quarterbacks in the league, though, that I'll say I think Cam Newton is an upgrade over right now. I'll be honest with you. Cam Newton is a shadow of himself compared to where he was before.
Do you think that plays into it, though, of Belichick saying, like, I know you don't want to be a backup, so I'm going to release you and say, hey, go try your luck, man. You can go try to be a back. You can go try to get a starting position. Maybe there's a handshake that if you want to come back, we'll take you back.
I 100% agree. I think that they had a conversation. Belichick told him he didn't win the job, and I think he gave Cam the option. Do you want to stay here as a backup, or
Do you want us to release you?
Do you want us to release you and give you a shot?
I think they wanted the voice out of the locker room. You'll have a disruption if you have him being a backup quarterback. You drafted this rookie quarterback. This isn't a guy like they drafted in the 4th round.
Right.
He's a first rounder. It was 13, 40, whatever it was. He was a first rounder.
Jordan Love.
Rounder. Jordan Love was later, and he got drafted by a fucking Hall of Famer. Cam Newton's not a Hall of Famer.
The word on the street is when he left, Belichick wasn't happy about that, even though supposedly they said it was approved, and that it took him 5 days to get back to practice with the team. And you know how he is with his team. He didn't even cut Tom Brady a break. He's not going to do it to Cam. And him not being vaccinated plays a part.
And
I'm sure there was also the COVID thing where he had to be away from camp because they thought he had COVID. It was a negative test or a positive test and a negative test. So it was back and forth. And this is something I heard. So John says Washington back with Ron. Not going to happen. Ron Rivera has had multiple chances. You were saying this.
Ron had multiple chances to bring Cam Newton in, and he turned that down.
So if you're talking about places that are a fit, I think the immediate place that he could go in and be a starter, and there's very few and far between, Houston.
That's what I was just saying. Yeah, I think Houston would be a good fit.
They want to lose.
I know you had mentioned prior to the show that potentially Miami.
Miami, I mean, you don't know. There's serious out of camp. You're hearing there's serious questions about Tua and this Miami offense.
If Cam walks in there dressed like he always does, Deshaun Watson's going to start thinking he's a masseuse.
Yeah. So this new guy from Shelton, what's his name, Ryan, too?
No, John Googs.
John Googs. Yeah.
I guess he's a Redskins fan.
I don't know. He was just saying Washington back with Ron. I don't know if he's a Redskins fan or not.
He's a Terps fan. So.
He's got to be a Ravens fan who's showing up here for all 2 hours. Thank you, John Googs, by the way.
It, man.
Alex says
for 3 hours, making me not feel like I'm talking to myself when I recommend it.
Alex says, do the Ravens roll with the running back group we have, or do they bring in someone? If so, who?
We did talk about this
earlier.
Go
back and listen to the beginning of the show. We definitely talked about it. I'll just give you the quick synopsis. I don't think Justice Hill is going to be ready for week 1. I think he goes to IR. I do think that they bring somebody in. Could that be just an elevation from the practice squad of McCrary if he makes the practice squad? Yes. But it could be an outside back. It could be a veteran. I don't personally like the groups of vet backs that are out there. I don't like the Gurleys, the Petersons, the Gores, and the Bells of the world. I haven't seen all the cuts yet from everybody's team, so I don't know the available free agent backs that were cut today. But like I said earlier in the show, Philip Lindsay is a guy that intrigues me if Houston is shopping him. I think he'd be a great fit.
John says, Tua turned the ball over.
That's a Scott Falser comment if I've ever heard of. All right, we got another backup. And then Brandon Madden says he's new here, love the content, gave us a follow.
Brandon, appreciate the support, man.
Every Tuesday we're going to be here.
He did write Go Bucks, too.
Go Bucks. All right.
Get out.
Yeah, you can stay. It'll be fine.
All right.
So one quick question, one follow-up Alex had. He says, can Tyson Williams catch the ball, or is he just a runner? He is a more complete back than I think we saw in the preseason. The couple of times that I watched him in preseason or in training camp, yes, he was catching the ball out of the backfield in some of the highlights. Again, it's training camp. They weren't even in pads, I think, at this point. So it kind of to be determined on that. But I think he's
Lamar get comfortable with him too.
Yeah, and that's going to take time. Lamar's got to get comfortable with him. We'll see. I think he's a more complete back than some people want to give him credit for. I think he's a better pass catching back than Gus Edwards would be.
Okay. All right. Let's do the answer. We got one more. John says Devontae Freeman was cut by the Saints. I thought it might be a dark horse option if we pick up anyone.
Trash.
Nah.
Trash. No. I don't like Devontae Freeman.
And always injured.
Yeah, he's Yeah, exactly. You know what's crazy about the running back position is we talk about past his prime. He's probably 28 years old, but you got a guy like Frank Gore who's 40 and still like productive. And
there's a small part of me like it'd be cool if Gore was here, but I don't think it's a fit anyway. But it just would be cool to say like Frank Gore played here. Like,
right. A guy older than me is on the Ravens roster right now. I would feel real good about that.
To get
Peterson. I mean, listen.
Sam Cook is older than you.
We're chasing names at this point for the RB3. But
all right, so let's do the answer to the internet. We got 2 questions real quick. So you want to go first? You want me to?
I'll let you go first. This one's kind of dumb.
Because we're not.
It is.
I think it's a good one.
We'll roll with it.
All right. Would you rather go back to being 18 years old, knowing everything you know now, or get $1 million?
clearly 18 years old. This is like Hack City. If I know everything I know now, I can take like $100
right, and turn it into whatever. That's exactly
like
what my answer was going to be.
Yeah,
if you can retain all the knowledge of like what's going to happen in the world,
Facebook,
yeah, right,
Bitcoin.
yeah, I think
Tesla.
But even if I couldn't financially gain from my knowledge, I think I'm still going back to 18 with everything I know now. I think that there's just like, you think you have any idea, but you don't.
Right. There's so many things I think back in my life that I'd be like, man, I wish if I was 18 again, I'd redo this, or I would have done that, or I would have done that. Yes, I think the whole financial thing, the $1 million is appealing, but money doesn't always last, and a lifetime of memories and like what you can do with your life, I think is more impactful. So going back, I'll take the Scott answer on this. I think going back.
I was going to say, where's the fucking Scott joke here? Where's it at? Can we find it?
I'll give it to it. Well, I can't go back to 18.
Why the fuck do I have a southern
I wouldn't have
he does this all the time.
I know.
My beautiful wife.
Every fucking time.
And my son. I would never.
I
want
sound
to
like a
lose
goddamn
the
Southern
memories
belle when it comes
that
out
I
of his
have with
mouth.
My beautiful
Best part
wife and
is,
son. I could give my son $1 million.
It wears off because he does the Southern shit. So when I was doing it for you the one week, I started doing it too. Not even realizing halfway through that I was doing a Southern accent.
Right. And more likely go, I would like to go back
comes the
when I'm
fucking deck
18
question.
again because my deck would be bigger.
I knew it was fucking coming. Knew it was coming.
Oh man,
It's James. There's a deck joke involved.
Homeowners Association.
So are we
you
all
didn't answer- you
are
didn't
we all
answer,
on the
James.
same page?
I'm the same.
18.
Okay, yeah. All right, so 18.
All on the same page. 18.
Just
All
a
right.
quick buck for the $1 million.
So this is going to test
Hold
the
on.
age of people in this room.
I want to go back to 18, so I have to carry my fantasy football.
Here, you
book.
can read it. You can read it. You read this one. So this question here is going to test the age in the room because when I read it, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what it meant at first.
Okay. Would you rather win an Olympic gold medal or have a piece of the aggro crag? And I have a feeling.
How
just
many
by
of
the-
you in here know what
guts.
the aggro crag is?
Hey!
Okay, so he knows.
He doesn't
what?
care because he doesn't know guts, so that doesn't answer his question either.
James,
so it's
did you know what it
probably
was?
just me.
So
It's
you
just
and I
me.
are on the same page. So you and I were a Double Dare fan. Nickelodeon,
So
we
was
grew up
he.
on Double Dare.
We did the Mary F. Kill
Guts
thing.
Guts was the next like age group. You should know what Guts
He
is
doesn't
because you
know
were
it.
I know
young
what
enough.
Double Dare is, so I must be weirdly
Global
old.
guts. See, I remember all.
You're
of
an old soul, Ryan.
I remember the
remember
aggro
them
crag.
all.
So for those that don't know, the aggro crag was the last element of the,
It was like
guts.
it was like a
You
mini
climb-
mountain climbing thing.
When you say mountain climbing thing, I picture like fucking.
So they were
definitely
strapped
gold
in and they're
medal.
like.
You
had to
thing
do
on
They were
that.
strapped in. You had to climb up. Sometimes stuff would be thrown down
Like
on you.
fake
That you'd have fake rocks coming at you.
Wind
You'd
and
have
rain,
the
confetti.
mist that they would throw at you to try to get you.
I
And
mean,
then sometimes
Legends of the Hidden
there would be
Temple's
the
still the
occasional
best, but-
slime.
Fucking James and I grew up on American Gladiators. That's what we know.
We're not that guy.
I'm not gonna lie.
We're not 28.
Let me tell you, if somebody
Rock
opens
at 18.
American Gladiators warehouse, I would definitely pay you a ton of money to let these idiots shoot rockets at me and tennis balls and shit.
Wait, shut
while
up.
I try and
Hey,
do
hey,
this.
shut
Let's
up.
do
Shut up.
this.
Business decision. Let's go.
I mean, come on.
No, but the
$5 million.
best part-
is
Although we
more.
said
There's got to be a million abandoned warehouses out there. We could find
I know.
something. To
I
make
I said, we
American
said we needed a
Gladiators out.
5-iron
The
golf
best-
up here, so we can do one of
The
two
best
things.
Gladiator one that I love was when they had to pick the thing to rip through. Either you had a gladiator behind you.
Yeah, right.
And you like half of like running and you hit like a big guy.
Yes.
They fucking rap.
Yes, American Gladiators was fantastic.
man.
I used to love where they'd shoot the tennis balls and everything like that. That course, that was one of my
that was the
favorites
main
for sure.
obstacle
Yes.
course.
They had to shoot. You had to shoot a tennis ball at the thing. It was like they were never fucking close. It was always way off.
Well, there was like one of those Nerf footballs on the end of the bazooka gun at one point.
Like 1 in 100 actually.
And
hit
it
the
would be
target.
all these steroid jacked motherfuckers that would be behind these
definitely.
obstacles. It was
Men
great.
and women.
Yes, men and women.
Nitro.
Right. Nitro.
Oh man.
All right.
Fun.
That was
10 o'clock. Let's go.
It's been a fun
Oh,
show.
man.
Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate all the new viewers tuning in. Make sure you tune in every Tuesday night, 7:30.
Hey,
We'll see you guys
football
next
season.
week.
Let's go.
Let's go, Terps.